Was the Texans minicamp hype or were we just football deprived? We'll get to that and much, much more. We're joined by B. Scott from the block.
Hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, hard work, work. There you go. Hard work, work. Everybody doing it right. Hard work, work, work. That's what you say. Hard work, work, work. Earn more pay. Hard work, work. Hard work. Do it every day. Hard work, work. Get up out of 2:45. Hard work, work. Ready to go and earn more pay. Hard work, work. Boots on and lace.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? You're tuning in to Sports Talk with Big Sarge. I'm your host, Big Sarge. Make sure you follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports, the Z at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you are following me on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Because you know we do everything for the gram. And make sure you're subscribed to the Big Sarge Media YouTube page and the Texans Tailgate Talk. All right, listen now. Listen. We about to have company, okay? I got to give y'all the speech. We about to have company. Now, listen. He family, but y'all don't get on here showing out now. We want him to know. Now, he invited us to his house on last week, so we returning the favor, and we're inviting him back. We're going to let him sit. We're going to definitely, B. Scott, we're going to definitely let you sit on the good couch that got the plastic still on it. You get to sit in the, you get to sit in the living room. Like not the den. You get to sit in the living room. Well, wait, maybe I got that backwards. No, you get to sit in the den. Because the den is where you had the plastic on the couch, right?
That's where you had the plastic on the couch and the china plates, right? The place that you're not really supposed to get dirty, you know?
Yep.
The place that you really put paper plates on top of them because you're not really supposed to really use these plates. They really for decorations. That's the dining room. That's the room you're talking about. I get to sit in. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the hospitality. I appreciate you for inviting me on your show. And man, look, like you say, I'm family. I'm ready to get with it, man. Like whatever we talking about, whatever the chat is into today, man, I'm with it. You know what I'm saying? So let's get with it, man. I ain't scared at all.
So wait, hold on. So you saying, B, let me just make sure I got this right now, because you know sometimes I hear stuff and then I'm like, I hear it, but am I really hearing it? So now like I'm listening and I'm hearing it. So let me just make sure I got this right. What you saying is you on whatever I'm on?
Man, I ain't never been scared, man. Never afraid.
B?
Never afraid.
Let me tell you something, man.
Maybe even to a fault. Maybe to my own detriment, but never afraid.
Now, B, you see I got this apron on. That means I'm ready to cook now, B.
That bad boy tell you tough. Something. That bad boy is tough. Can we just appreciate that bad boy is tough, man? It's got the new H. It's got the new bull on it. That's tough.
Hey, wait, hold on. Because I decided this year, B, I decided that in 2026, I'm going to flex. And I don't care who get mad about it. So let me flex for a little bit. You know where this came from?
I was just about to ask, is that from barbering or barbecuing? Because I know you've been around both scenes, right? I don't think you did no cutting the other day when I saw you at Coach Ross's, at special teams coordinator Frank Ross's benefit for the
coaches
cuts. Fifth annual coaches cuts, or was it the 5th or the 6th? Either way,
it's the 5th.
The 5th annual coaches cuts for the unhoused community. I don't think you got involved with the cuts, but I have seen you out there flipping burgers with the owner and CEO of the team.
So that's what I mean. This was personally given to me by the owner and CEO Cal McNair himself last year before we did I forgot what they call it, but you know where they make the burgers, Cal's burgers at the end of the Cal's Cookout.
Cal's Cookout, that's what it is.
Yeah, Cal's Cookout at the end of the training camp. So yeah, so he gave me this, and so you know, I only break it out on special occasions or when I feel like I'm about to cook up something really good. And on today's show, I'm gonna cook up something really good, B, because I know we're gonna get into Texas Minicamp. Is it just hype or were we football deprived? We're definitely gonna talk about the NBA Finals and how I feel like Victor Wembanyama is an emotional alien. Will the Spurs return anytime soon, or are they built to just look the part? Not only that, will the Knicks return? And definitely got to get into some. Listen, the Rockets made the right choice by drafting Reed Sheppard over Stephon Castle. Everybody want to play hindsight. It's 2020. Everybody want to look in the past. We're not doing that today, B. So I know that I've done a whole bunch of talking, and I forgot to say, hey, B, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, man. B Scott, man. If y'all don't know already, B Scott, the B Block with B Scott on YouTube, Sports Radio 610. I'm on there twice a week. Actually gonna be hosting, since Sarge get on me for not telling the people enough about when I'm gonna be on. Let me just say this now that I know it ahead of time. And it used to be a time where if you was filling in, you wasn't really supposed to promote that because the station didn't really want people to know that the regulars wasn't gonna be in.
Yeah.
But since we family, and to be honest, them rules don't really apply no more. The person that was in charge back then that had that rule is not in charge no more. Yeah. And since we family, I can tell y'all, I'm gonna be on Sports Radio 610 next week with Ron the Show Hughley from 2 to 6 all week, Monday through Friday.
The whole week?
The whole week. So not this week, next week, starting a week from today, Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 with Ron the Show Hughley on Sports Radio 610. So that's me.
Make sure you put that out on social media too, so I can share it. And while we're making announcements, I will be on from 12 to 3 Monday. I'm sorry, from 12 to 3 Wednesday and Friday on ESPN Radio 97.5. Me and DJ Beneme. I don't know if you all caught us last week. I was oh man, those 2 days. I'm just happy. You know, sometimes you go to people's house and you wonder if you're gonna get invited back, and B, they actually invited us back.
Hell yeah, I've been there.
Did you know how I get when DJ and I get together?
Yeah, I saw y'all chopping it up. That got to be an intense debate about soccer, the athletes in soccer versus baseball.
Yes.
Boy, y'all went on and on about that. I couldn't even stay with because I had to, I was moving in and out, but I stuck with it for as long as I could. I was like, these boys going at it just as I know they do off the air, off mic.
Because I be trying to spare DJ, man. And for those of y'all don't know, we're talking about DJ Beneme, the Texans beat writer for ESPN. I be trying to spare him, B, by not embarrassing him. But, he just – I've never seen somebody that's a glutton for pain like that. Like, no, Sarge, go ahead. Hit me again. Well, sure, if you're asking for it, now I'm bing, 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 bing.
Y'all are funny, man. Y'all are hilarious. Sure.
And B, before we get into talking about Texas Minicamp, I really want to start this off because – we're having a discussion in our group chat, and somebody posted after the New York Knicks won the finals. They were saying that they can't wait till the Houston Texans win a Super Bowl so the city can be on fire like it was when the Knicks won the championship. And somebody in our group chat, I won't say their name, but somebody in our group chat said that the Texans fans aren't as rabid as the New York Knicks fans, and they're not even the most crazed fans in the city of Houston. And I say, boy, are you crazy? Have you lost your damn mind? Do you know if this city won a Super Bowl, that 94-95 Rockets championship, the Astros got 3 or 2?
Two. They've been to 4, but yeah, they got 2.
Right. Yeah, so look. Those World Series titles and those NBA Final Championship, that ain't gonna mean nothing if the Houston Texans win a Super Bowl. All they need to do is, if they can get to one, they ain't even got to win it just yet. But if they can get to one, this city is gonna go crazy. But am I wrong, B?
Yeah, man. So and I've said the Astros been to 4. They've been to 4 recently. I was thinking about the current run, but man, you can't even. I don't think you can compare a city's first ever Super Bowl, and especially a football town like Houston, a football state like Texas, like the energy around that, it would at the very least be comparable. Now, like I think one thing could be true and the other one not, and that's that like New York City is a much bigger city and it's got a much longer history. It's got way more bandwagon fans on top of the real energy that's around the Knicks fan base, right? They got all of that going for them. So I can see how you might think, oh, it's not going to look exactly like New York. Because to be fair, don't nothing really look like New York City if we're just being honest about it. But
sure.
in comparison, like it would be nuts. And I don't think it's true that that's not the most rabid fan base in the city, right? Like I agree with your point. You cannot compare what it would be. Like if you just want to think about what it was like in 2017, what it was like in 2022 when the Astros won the World Series and what downtown looked like in that parade, like they would have serious mobility and traffic issues come time to celebrate a Super Bowl here in the city of Houston. I think that the Texans and football in general reigns supreme by far in the city of Houston and in the state of Texas. So do the Texans have a history of the Knicks? No, but is like the connection between football and the people down south and the people down here similar to the connection of basketball in New York City? Absolutely. So yeah, man, I don't know who that was in the group chat, but I could not wait I'm telling you, I cannot wait to see this city and hope that I live to see this city get to celebrate a Super Bowl.
Yeah, because it's like, well, what makes you think that? I was like, well, the fact that I've been in this city for how long, and the fact that I've been covering Houston sports for how long, I know for a fact there'll be so many fans coming out of the woodworks because the person said, well, how come how come we don't see that at the stadium on Sundays? I was like, because every fan can't afford to go to a game.
Yeah.
Like, let's just be honest. Every fan can't afford to go to games. A lot of fans ain't never been to a game, but that ain't saying that they don't support the Houston Texans, that they haven't watched the Houston Texans. So that's all I can say, is that I know that here, they would have to shut the city down almost for a day.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
that would be so many people.
And the thing about it is, like, okay, maybe the crowd does not look like some others, but when you're talking about the fan base and the energy around the team, you're not counting for all the people that's actually watching and consuming the game, the people that's in bars around a city of this size, people that's at their house watching the game, a city of this size. I was just thinking about the other day how much, like, we go to the game for what we do because it benefits what we do. But I honestly think about it, like, part of me, like as a fan, would prefer to be able to watch it at home. Like, if I'm just being straight up, the football watching experience is better at home. Right. But we out there working, and I think it's, obviously valuable for us to be there. But if I was just a fan, I think I would rather watch the game at home. So like and that's different from basketball, where, as as we both cover the Rockets, being at an arena is a different vibe and a whole different feel than being at a football stadium. So it's smaller, right? It's more intimate. So I just think it's totally different. Like the two venues, for one thing, a sports arena versus I should say a basketball arena versus a football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
But also, man, like, Houston is so big, right? So big. The people would come out in droves. Yes. And honestly, I think that would energize, a rabid fan base got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And man, I've never seen it, or rarely seen it, like I have over the last few years. Like, there are some exceptions, right? Like early on in the fan base or early on in the franchise, but it's been as, like, in some of those playoff games, as loud as I've seen it in NRG/Reliant/Houston Stadium, whatever the hell they want to call it these days.
I definitely agree with you, B. And I think that there'll be so many fans coming out the woodworks if the Houston Texans ever won a Super Bowl. But speaking of the Houston Texans, B, you and I got an opportunity to observe the 3 days of minicamp that the Houston Texans had on last week. And, it's just it was the exact same thing that it was from OTAs when there's a lot of things that's coming out of OTAs and a lot of things coming out of minicamp. And I'm just like, I don't think I think that the minicamp hype is nothing but people deprived of football. Just there's nothing else, that I don't want to say there's nothing else to talk about, but there's no football going on. And when they get a glimpse, or when they get a hope for that 2 weeks just to be able to talk about that just to get a chance to talk about football, man, things go crazy. They want to know what the quarterback looks like, who playing center, where the wide receivers, is Tank Dell out there with the linebacker? Like, I get it. I get it. The minicamp hype to me is just it's for the football deprived, because I get out there. Don't get me wrong. There's certain things that I'm watching that we're definitely gonna jump in and talk about. But B, what was some of your takeaways from minicamp?
Yeah, so the big thing for me was watching the rookie center Keelan Rutledge, right, and trying to figure out like how are they going to try to bring him along, because this is a thing. And the big story, let me not bury the lead, right? The big story is CJ Stroud. I don't want to try to run from that at all. The big story is CJ Stroud and what is going to be his response to the way that his season ended last year. But I think within that, of course, a story, the sidebar within that is what happens with this Texans offensive line, all of the additions that they made. And we got to kind of see them all together and them trying to bring along Keelan Rutledge as a rookie who was drafted and played right guard in college, but is supposed to play center for the Texans. And what is that learning curve and that training process supposed to look like? And the fact that CJ Stroud, I feel like we talked about this. CJ Stroud, it has been a turnstile for this guy at center. Not just the offensive line overall, we can talk about that, but those interior spots from guard to guard and the center spot specifically, I mean, from Michael Dieter to Juice Scruggs to Jake Andrews to Jared Patterson to like you name it at this point, right? He is I want to say they might have even started with Scott Quisenberry before he got injured in the very beginning. Like, he has gone through a number of centers, and this year they might hand the keys to a rookie who has actually not snapped the ball, not even really in college, much less in the pros. So seeing what that looks like, and of course CJ Stroud, and hearing him talk, and I wasn't there for that availability. I know you were, and heard you talk to him, but hearing from him. And one of the first things that he mentioned when he was talking about the relationship with Nick Caley and how that's going in year 2 was wanting to kind of have a little bit more of an imprint on what it is that they do, which I think is real important, Sarge. When we talk about what kind of year CJ Stroud is going to have, I think it's comfortable that the dude, I think that it's important that the dude be comfortable. Okay. When we talk about CJ Stroud in year 4, I think it's important that the dude be comfortable in what they are doing and fully bought in to what they are doing, on top of them addressing these things that they talk about in the run game and with the offensive line that will obviously help CJ Stroud. So number 1 is Keelan Rutledge, who I did notice was taking first team and second team reps, right? And they're trying to get him up to speed. I said on Sports Radio 610 that I think he will be their starting center no later than he is ready, right? Like, as soon as they feel like this guy is ready, I think they're going to give him the job. Right.
Okay, so B, hold on. I got to ask you this, and before, I didn't mean to interrupt you with you giving me a take, because I got some things I want to talk about. I had to stop you, because is that a good thing, though, B? Because if your quarterback who has been in 2 different offensive systems in the 4 years that he's been in there, and he's on his 4th offensive line rotation, so you just getting him used to being in this offense for the 2nd year. You got Jake Andrews. You bought Jake Andrews back, who he's played with the entire year. So now you're gonna switch him out for the center position again with the rookie who's still learning the game. You don't think that, especially with the way that the interior offensive line for the Texans has been a problem over the last couple of years, now you finally kind of get that straight, because you re-signed Ed Ingram and you brought in Teller, right, to play. Teller's the one that's going to play left guard, correct?
Yep. Wyatt Teller left guard and Ed Ingram back at right guard.
Right. So you finally kind of fixed that part. But now you're going to give your franchise quarterback a rookie center. And, I mean, he don't even know how to call out protections just yet. And he hasn't played center since what, high school? The majority of his snaps in college came from right guard. So now you're going to put him at the center position, and you're saying, all right, CJ, figure it out again?
It's dicey. I mean, it's literally why, like, normally I wouldn't lead with the center position. That's not necessarily the sexiest thing to talk about on a football, when you're talking about football.
Right.
But that's the reality. That's the need. I don't get to just make it up, right? That's what the Texans need to figure out. Or I would put it this way. It is, I think, the least certain position on the offensive line. Ariante Ursery is going to be the left tackle.
For sure.
Feel pretty confident that Wyatt Teller is going to be the left guard. Okay, I go on the right side, and it's going to either be Braden Smith or Trent Brown. But
I would go Braden Smith.
But either way, that's a veteran. I feel like you kind of know what to expect no matter where they go. And I'm with you there. I'm going to go Braden Smith as well. So let's just go Braden Smith, right tackle. And, of course, they brought back Ed Ingram on a new contract. He's going to be your right guard. The least certain position is the center position, whether they go with Jake Andrews, the veteran, who I think now, with all due respect, is now considered the weak link, even if he does start among the offensive line, or if they go with the rookie for all of the reasons that you just laid out and described. That is absolutely risky. And that's what makes it so interesting. That's what makes it such a compelling storyline and such a talking point and something to watch when we're out there, because it does seem like they have drafted him to cross-train him to be the center at some point. And that's why I had the caveat, like, it's not as high to take Sarge to be like, he'll be the starting center eventually. Like when I was on with Lopez and Reg on In the Loop on Friday, and I said this exact thing, and I said he's gonna be the starting center eventually. And Lopez got mad because he thought that wasn't a hot enough take. But this speaks to the point that you're making about Jake Andrews. He is insurance. If the rookie ain't ready, there ain't no reason to throw him out there in the fire and risk all of that stuff that you just talked about. So they can go with Jake Andrews. But as soon as they do feel comfortable with him going out there and filling that spot, because he does have this profile that fits with the type of makeup and identity they want this offensive line to have to kind of mimic what the defense is about. This is the guy that they want to be out there. So I agree with your point that it's risky, but that's why I want to watch it. That's why I want to watch it so bad, because I think this is something that they're trying to do.
Because here's the thing for me too, B, is okay. If you don't have the faith in Jake Andrews, and you're going to put a rookie who's only, like, the last time he really took snaps at center was at the Senior Bowl, you're going to throw him in there, then that means that you don't have enough faith that Cole Popovich can take Jake Andrews in the second year of this offense and make him better, or you have the confidence that Cole Popovich can take this rookie who hasn't played this position in years and bring him up to speed. So either way, you're putting a lot of pressure on Cole Popovich. For those of y'all don't know, that's the Houston Texans offensive line coach. You're putting I'll put it like this. He's not under as much pressure if he sticks with Jake Andrews compared to trying to bring up Rutledge at the center position. And also, Jared Patterson is still around, right? And so he's in his second or third year with Cole. He's in his second year with Cole Popovich as far as being offensive line coach, but he's also in his third year of being around Cole, because Cole was the assistant offensive line coach when they had Strausser here, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like having six in one hand, half a dozen in the other, because I understand exactly what you're saying, and you would want to see, because Rutledge, let me see. Let me make sure that I got his measurements right. Yeah. So Rutledge is 6'4", 330 pounds. Yeah. When you look at a guy like that, you saying he definitely looks the part, but Jake Andrews is 6'3", 300 pounds. But it's so weird, B. That's two different 6'3", 6'4", 300 pounds.
Yeah. You could tell the difference like that. And that was another part of, like you mentioned, height versus like whether there's some actual substance. We're not getting no real type of analysis on the offensive line at no OTA or no minicamp. They're not out there knocking the hell out of each other. And it's really going to be limited amount of that in training camp if they're smart, right? They're going to mix it up, of course, when they put the pads on. But you're not gleaning nothing about that at OTAs and minicamp. But you do get to see them out there once they roll out there and just get to see the mass of it all, like how big this offensive line is going to be end to end, shoulder to shoulder, right? And so that's what it's going to come down to. All of this, like we can talk it 6 ways to Sunday, man, but all of it is going to come down to is whether Keelan Rutledge is a better football player right now than Jake Andrews, Jared Patterson, or Eli Cox, or Evan Brown, or anybody that they might think about putting at center. Is Keelan Rutledge the guy that they were aggressive in drafting this year? Okay, they moved up a couple of spots to draft this guy, and then only to cross-train him. I agree, man. It is a risky proposition, but they're saying that they see something in this guy that makes them think that his skills can translate to playing center for them. Now, does that mean he can do it to the point of, like, can he do it week 1? Does he sit behind a veteran for a year or half a year until he's ready?
Yeah,
like his play and how training camp plays out, I think is going to determine all of that. But that's why I want to watch it. It might not be week 1. That's why I didn't get a hottest take ever and say it'll be week 1. We got to see what it looked like, because everything that you say could be true. That the rookie just is not ready, and Jake Andrews make more sense for the time. But one way, sooner or later, this look like gonna be their center.
So B, this is what I say, right? This is what I say. We're gonna put a pin. What I'm about to say right here, we're gonna put a pin in until training camp. We're gonna come back after 2 weeks of training camp, even before the first preseason game, whatever the case be. But after 2 weeks of training camp, we'll come back and we'll definitely talk about this, right? Maybe a week and a half, three practices after they put the pads on. Because
that'll work.
The first three practices, no pads.
Yeah.
Then they're gonna throw the pads on. So maybe after the third practice that they have the pads on, let's get back to. I'm gonna stick a pin in what I'm about to say right now when it comes to Rutledge. I will have a better evaluation about him once they put the pads on and he goes up against Caden McDonald. Because that's going to tell me a lot. Because you got 2 rookies who are very hungry for playing time, very out to prove themselves, not just to themselves, to the team, but to the rest of the world, showing that the Texans made a great pick. But that's going to be a battle that's going to be going on at least for the next 4 years amongst them.
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've been thinking ever since they drafted Caden McDonald that, because obviously they drafted him in the 2nd round after they draft Rutledge, of course, right?
Yep.
But Caden McDonald feel like he's supposed to be a 1st round pick. He feel like he better than anybody that got picked ahead of him in the 1st round, right? And whether that's true or not, he's supposed to think that. But you can't tell me that he's not going to line up against this guy on the other side of him who got drafted ahead of him, with him thinking that he's actually better than everybody that got drafted ahead of him. And he's not going to try to prove exactly that. So I don't know what the relationship is like, or the dynamic, like if it, you know what I mean, if it's just like a healthy competitive thing or nothing. I have not even asked either one of them about that yet. But you cannot tell me that at the very least, as rookies, they're not going to get after it, and that McDonald at the very least is not going to be motivated to perform against a guy that got drafted ahead of him, who was the last guy sitting in the green room feeling like he should have been drafted already. I can't wait to watch that.
That's going to tell me who should start at center. But we're going to put a pin in that, and we're going to come back after the third practice with pads on. We got to come back and touch on this.
Also, just to leave it at this too, I want to see if it's smoother with him snapping the ball, right? Like him snapping the ball, because there were some issues at practice with him snapping the ball, it being a little bit to the side, not exactly clean. Like everything you said is valid, because it's not as clean with Keelan Rutledge as it is with Jake Andrews, even with Eli Cox, because this guy haven't done it at all. So by the end of training camp, does that look different? By the time we talk about this again, does even that look different? We'll see.
B, we spent 20 minutes talking about the offensive line. That is not sexy, but
hey,
look,
man.
I'm just messing with you, man, because that's something that definitely people want to hear. I just had to throw that in there. Shout out to the people that's watching us on the Tick and the Talk, man. I appreciate y'all for joining the live. Shout out to everybody that's joining in. Alexis, what's going on? B, let me jump in there and tell you my observations from minicamp real quick, right? So the one thing that I really want to look at, and for those of you all who follow the Texans Tailgate Talk, who are subscribed on YouTube, we're going to talk about this on Tuesday's show. I got an opportunity to speak with Bill Davis, the linebackers coach. Let me make sure I make sure I got his name right. Yep, Bill Davis, the linebackers coach. Because when I'm looking at the defensive unit, the only thing that worries me outside of maybe the depth on the defensive line, especially in the interior a little bit, but definitely on the ends, is the linebacker position. And the reason why I say I want to see that it worries me just a little bit, because you know that you have Azeez man in the middle, you know that you got Henry Toa, but now that you don't have any EJ Speed, now you got to depend on players who haven't gotten a lot of playing time in that position. But Jamal Hill's been with the team for a while. They picked up Mapu. Is that Marte Mapu, right, from New England to play in that. But I brought up Bill Davis's name because I asked him this when we got an opportunity to speak to the coaches. I feel like you may see a lot of these rookies getting an opportunity to play at that linebacker position, as far as just giving Azeez a rest, or giving Henry a rest, or bringing them in, when you might move, because they use Jalen Petrie a lot at that cornerback. That other linebacker position, keeping him very, very close to the line, because we know that he's a hidden machine, and we also know that in those short coverages in that area, he can definitely hold his own in that area. But I'm looking to see, what these linebackers are going to do. So I know that Aiden Fisher didn't get a chance to practice a lot, but Wade Woodass, is that his name? The rookie out of Clemson?
Yep, that's him. Shot blocker. Boy, tall, man.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If anybody ever looked the part, he looks the part. And so, just from looking at him, like, yo, that's a big guy. But that's what I asked Bill Davis about him and about both of those rookies. And he said that, what he loved about Nick Casario and D'Amico did was they went out and they made sure that they had depth at that position. And they also went out and got some pretty good guys. So I just wanted to see, what the linebackers, what those backup linebackers was going to look like. I also wanted to see it's I can say this till I'm blue in the face. You see how dark I am, so it's gonna take a lot for me to turn blue. I'll probably turn purple before I would turn blue. That's neither here nor there. The defensive backs. What I also wanted to see, not in OTAs, I don't care nothing about that. OTAs is just cool, whatever. I wanted to see what's gonna happen in minicamp. Those defensive backs are in rare form.
Bruh.
You talk about Stingley, Lassiter, Bullock, and now they've added Reed Blankenship and the aforementioned Jalen Petrie with the way. Like, I think I had put this out last week. I was like, another day, another Jalen Petrie pick 6. Like, he is just he's so smart. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying to myself, like, he's gotten better and definitely gotten better at playing that nickel corner position. And so those defensive backs are in rare form, B.
So you remember when you were on my show last week and you said that the Texans, I asked you if this Texans defense could be better than the year before, if it could be better in 2026 than it was in 2025. And you said that you felt like the Texans had a chance to be basically the 2000s Ravens, right? Yep. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. Here's the reason why. What you just mentioned actually is the reason why they are in that conversation for if they win a Super Bowl or if they replicate last year or somehow better than last year, they got an opportunity to be one of the best defenses of all time, literally of all time, to be discussed with the 2000 Ravens or the 2002 Bucks or the 2015 Denver Broncos or the Legion of Boom era Seattle Seahawks or whatever. Name your favorite defense of the modern era, or if you want to go all the way back, they'll be at the 85 Bears. They'll be right there in the conversation with anybody. And it is in large part not just because they have, as you pointed out on my show, 2 all-pro level ends, but they got the best secondary, right? They got the best secondary, arguably, in football, especially now. Like, I think it was arguable before this Reed Blankenship acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
But now that there's no holes to poke in that secondary, like, because, I mentioned center earlier being a turnstile. That safety position opposite Kalen Bullock, it was MJ Stewart till he got hurt. It was Jalen Reed till he got hurt. It was they were always really trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But, of course, it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson to start, and that didn't work out. But Reed Blankenship, here's what I'll say, they stay healthy, the secondary stay healthy, it will be a huge reason why this defense is in the conversation for one of the best that we've ever seen, certainly in the modern era, but arguably of all time.
You remember what Aziz said during his media availability when he was asked about? Wait, hold on. I asked him about Reed Blankenship. I was like, when he was asked about Reed Blankenship, I think I asked him about Reed Blankenship, and he said the one thing that he liked about Reed is he's smart and he communicates. Mm-hmm. He says it's like having, it's like we communicate back and forth so much. I can hear him telling me something. He can hear me telling him something. Sometimes he said, sometimes I may be wrong, and I can hear him in the back. I could hear him behind me cleaning it up and saying, "Wait a minute, no. This is what he's supposed to be doing, fixing it."
He said it was like having another linebacker on the field.
Yes, and that's the one thing that they have been missing for a very long time. Now, I will say this though, and a lot of people probably won't remember this, and a lot of people probably won't give him credit for this. But what Reed Blankenship is doing is also what Jalen Petrie used to do when he was at the safety position. He used to do a lot of that. Now, I really like where they got him playing at right now, but he used to do a lot of that too. So yes, so I'm saying that those defensive backs, man, they are in like they're in rare form. So that's the one thing that I was looking at. B, we're going to move on. I mean, later on in this show, we'll definitely come back because I want you to give me 3 things that you want to look for heading into training camp. Because once training camp starts, now we can get down to the real evaluations and things like that. But I do want to say
that I liked your point about the linebackers because that's not in my 3 things. Yeah, but I'm glad that you brought it up though, because that is a big part of this, like a development with EJ Speed's injury. That's not something that we was checking for before his injury. Right now, we're looking at those rookies to the point that you made. Mapu, or like the guys that they brought in, order rookies, right? Whether it's Wade Woodaz or somebody like Jamal Hill, who's been around a little bit, but more so made an impact on special teams. Yep. We don't know, Sarge. We don't know, man. Like, so that's like that's a mystery on a defense that don't have a whole lot of mysteries on it. But I'll let you continue.
No, for sure. No, B, that's a great point. Like I said, that's something that you and I probably will discuss. Also, hey, real quickly. When I was on your show, one of the questions you asked me is one of the same questions I think that you had asked offense coordinator Nick Caley as well about the explosives. And I said, B, I feel like that one of the things that they're going to have to do is they're going to have to scheme explosive plays. Like they can't just go out there, line up and say they're about to have an explosive. No, they're going to have to scheme it up to the point where they can catch people by surprise and, catch people by surprise, use that some sneaky plays to get some of those explosives outside of, just making some. Because I believe that they're going to have some explosive plays, but when you start scheming, you could have more. And be the very next day when you were talking to Hall of Famer John McClain, and when I said, B, look, and I don't know if you got an opportunity to look, but when they went to team drill one of the first thing they did was run a play. And when I'm looking at the when I'm looking at the setup on from the offensive side of the ball, I'm saying, oh, that's gonna work. That's gonna work because where they have these guys lined up at is, and the reason why I knew it was gonna work is because I watched the Texans defense start to scramble because that was something they hadn't seen before. So now they're like, okay, oh, hey, they talking to each other, trying to get into position. Then they hike the ball or whatever the case may be. I don't remember if it was completed or not because I was just like, that's what I'm talking about. They're going to have to do that. And then the last day of minicamp, they ran some things that I'm saying, okay. And it looks like Nick Caley is getting more comfortable now with being able to call those plays, and he knows what CJ likes. And I'm going to be honest with you too, B. This is one thing that I want to bring back up in training camp, but I'm going to say it right now. I understand CJ had the concussion. I understand he had the concussion trying to get out of the pocket. What I don't want CJ to do is to keep seeing ghosts. And what I don't want CJ to do is to get comfortable in the pocket when you can't take the ball down and get out of the pocket. Because last year, early on, he had success getting out of the pocket. He made a concerted effort to get out of the pocket. But after the concussion, and rightfully so, because, I mean, the man, like when you're talking about a traumatic brain injury, and people will be like, oh, it's just a concussion. That's still trauma on the brain.
And wasn't his first one either. He had one his rookie year too.
Right.
It's not like it's his first one too.
Exactly. And with the way that it happened, now he's like, okay, well, what's going on? And so I felt like I seen him having seeing a lot of those ghosts later on in the season. I'll give you an example. Even in the New England game, there was times where I felt like CJ could have took the ball down and ran. And I felt like some of his incompletions, I even felt like, one or two of his interceptions, he rushed it. And I felt like where he would have normally early in the season would have been moving, trying to make a play. I just think that those, he was seeing ghosts and didn't want to get hit like that again. And so I said all that to say that one thing that I want us to take a look at going into while we're in training camp is to see if he's back to bringing, getting out of the pocket. And so,
yeah, man, look, that was a storyline really even leading up to the playoffs, is how CJ Stroud was running less, and like a kind of a quiet storyline, because the big one was that they was winning, right? They were on the winning streak. Defense was playing out of his mind, and even the offense was playing well enough to not lose them games, even if people were frustrated with it. But man, we was noticing that before we even got to the playoffs, that CJ Stroud was running less. And I don't think it's a coincidence, to your point, when you say, like, smartly so, not a coincidence that he was concussed. Like, unlike the play against the Jets his rookie year, where that happened kind of in the pocket and he just got slammed on that terrible playing service that they got out there with the Jets. That's basically concrete and cement. This was actually him doing exactly what you're talking about, trying to run for a first down and sliding. And you kind of argue, what you thought about the timing of the slide and the timing of the hit or whatever. But this is the kind of the cost of doing business when you out there as a runner, right? Like the linebacker gonna try to lay you out if he can. Yeah, and that's what happened. And so you can see why he wouldn't want to do that, to not jeopardize his status, his health, right? He just had a concussion. But I'm with you, man. Like that's an added element when the defense has to account for a quarterback's legs. And we understand CJ Stroud is not Lamar Jackson, but he is a young enough, fleet of foot enough quarterback to threaten, to at least, if not threaten and design plays, to be able to pick up yards when a play is not there, or if that's just the easiest yardage to get. So I'm hopeful that he is that he's at least a lot more comfortable doing that. But man, also, like, when you talk about these explosive plays, right, and Nick Caley scheming it up, I want to see what that looks like. You were talking about some of the formations that you were looking at. That's going to be a big thing for me in training camp, is identifying who the weapons are, right? And I think we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but identifying who the weapons are and trying to figure out, if not a hierarchy, at least like what can you rely on? Because right now they got Nico Collins, they got Dalton Schultz as like their reliable guys, but then everybody else is just like potential, like a load of potential in these second year guys, right?
Yeah.
The potential of a Tank Dell, who I'm sure we'll talk about, but the potential of a Tank Dell coming back, what is that going to look like? Nobody knows. Everybody can try to guess and pretend. Nobody knows. It's a big mystery, big question mark. What if he does? What if he does come back and he's Tank? What if he's not, but he's still really damn good?
For sure.
Like all of that is in play. So I think that's the big challenge for Nick Caley is, I mentioned earlier of the collaboration with CJ Stroud, but really identifying, okay, let me just say it like this. Can we unleash Jalen Noel? I'm talking around it. Can we just unleash Jalen Noel? Like I'm gonna just put that out there. Unleash Jalen Noel. All right. And right here with the right on time, not starting over.
That's my guy.
Hey, it can be water under the bridge if in year 2 of the Nick Caley system and in year 2 of Jalen Noel's career that we go ahead and unleash Jalen Noel. Rid yourself of the sins of over relying on Christian Kirk and unleash Jalen Noel, for God's sake.
I'm glad you said that. Once again, you tune to Sports Talk with Big Sarge. I'm your host, Big Sarge, joined by the host of the B Block podcast and Sports Radio 610, Brandon K. Scott. Told you I gotta go like Big J Sarge. I don't know. I'm gonna find some way to figure it out because I don't want to just do my government name. I guess it sounds more distinguished. But
B, so you got me changing mine. See, now I had to throw it in there.
Yeah.
Just since you called me that, I changed my name here on the screen. Brandon K. Scott.
B, let me say this. And since we're here, right? Since we're still talking about Texas Minicamp, I'm just gonna say it. I said it last week on the radio, and we didn't have time to get to it. So I'll say it right here with you. Some may say that this is a hot take, but everybody knows that, I don't do hot takes. I stand on everything. Everything that I talk about, I believe in, B. Everything I talk about, I believe in, and I stand 10 toes down on it. I honestly and truly believe that the Houston Texans have the best wide receivers in the AFC South. Ooh. DJ said that Jacksonville does. I said, no. I don't see it, and I got it. They got. Are you pulling up Jacksonville's wide receivers?
No, I'm actually just comparing it in my mind right now because they traded for old buddy from Jacoby. Was it Jacoby Myers they traded for last year? And of course they got Brian Robinson. I'm sorry, Brian Robinson. Brian Thomas. Brian Robinson is the running back. Brian Thomas
for the Commanders. Yeah, I was right first. Brian Thomas.
Yeah, Brian Thomas. No, I'm the one that messed it up. I messed it up.
Roster.
Right. No, I Thomas and Robinson is real easy to get confused, and the fact that there is one of each is confusing. But y'all know what I'm talking about. Man, that's interesting because I would just take off the strength of Nico alone and the potential of everybody else and acknowledge
the best wide receiver in the AFC South.
Or easily by a mile. And then acknowledging that I'm talking off of potential. Like, okay, saying that on the front end, admitting that. Just off of the strength of Nico Collins and the potential of everybody else, I would take that over whatever you already know about everybody else. Brian Thomas and Jacoby Myers, that pairing and everything else that they got. And I guess they're going to do a part-time deal or maybe some specialty plays for Travis Hunter. But yeah, man, I'm going with Nico and the crew over whatever else you're talking about around the AFC South. And now the Colts lead receiver is Alec Pierce, who is a problem for the Texans. I don't want to discount that, but they don't have. Yeah, I don't see it. I'll take Nico and this crew.
Yeah, because last year we didn't get an opportunity to see, and we talked about this earlier, and then Miles and that Yak put it up there. Said it best. Yeah. I think you and I discussed it on your show too last week. They did no disservice by, you know, making him wait his turn as a rookie and just putting Christian Kirk over him, even though Christian Kirk came into the season hurt, got hurt again, and just wasn't productive. And that's when you throw your rookie into the fire and say, "Hey, bro, look, you're gonna be here for a minute. Christian Kirk is on a 1-year deal. Go out there and do what you need to do, man. We need to see what you can do." And so you got those 2 wide receivers, and there's nobody in the AFC South that can put 2 6'4" wide receivers on the outside in Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins. And then if you want, because Xavier Hutchinson is 6'4" as well, you can put him in the slot if you need to, put his big body in the slot, while you also got Dalton Schultz. That's another. So when CJ could drop back and he got all these big wide receivers, but if you don't put X right there, you still got those 2 6'4" bookends out there. And you already know it's crazy, because what a lot of people didn't talk about last year, when it came to Jaden Higgins and how much and it was funny because I talked to wide receivers coach Ben McDaniels. I got a clip that I'm going to put out when I talked about Nico and his veteran leadership, because him and Ben have been together since Michigan.
Yeah.
And so I was like, he's watched Nico grow, but I don't think anybody really took into account how. Go back and watch some of the film and watch later on in the season. The routes may not have been as crisp for Jaden Higgins. I mean, of course, because a lot of people, I keep saying a lot of people, but some people don't realize that when you have these rookies, they're all of them are going to hit a wall because they're not used to playing this much. So you get to see you start seeing some of the fatigue at the end, and then it kicks back in. But go back and watch how physical he became later on in the season. And that's exactly how Nico is. Nico is a big physical wide receiver. Jaden Higgins, if he didn't learn nothing else, he learned that from Nico. X even learned that from Nico. And so that's why I say that I think that they got the best wide receiver group in the AFC South. Because if you go 4 wide and you got Nico and Higgins on the outside, and then let's just say you put Noel and Tank in the slots, just putting both of those in the slots, I feel like that there's not another team, in the AFC South, not the Jags, not the Colts, not the Titans, that can do that exact same thing.
Man, look, I'm glad that you mentioned the size and even brought up Xavier Hutchinson, like the size of these wide receivers. Sarge, they have no excuse.
Yeah.
To make this clear, the Texans have no excuse to be poor performers in the red zone and on third down the way they were last year, man. When they got the type of options that you're talking about. Exactly. And I see somebody in the chat right now that's asking why in the world didn't we throw more fade routes to Nico and Higgins in the red zone? I'm not saying just straight up fade routes per se, but utilizing that size and physicality that you are talking about right now, that Jaden Higgins started to show toward the end of the year, and that we already know that Nico Collins has. And then you add in the element of another big body receiver in Xavier Hutchinson. You got a really good tight end, at least a really good pass catching tight end in Dalton Schultz. And now I'm talking about anywhere from 3 to 4 options, solid options in the red zone that are either big bodied or tight ends who most of what they do is, maybe you're using these other guys as decoys and you find something in the middle of the field. And and Dalton Schultz runs outside routes as well. So like you got all of these different options, right? You should be able to perform a lot better in the red zone than they did this past year. And just to the Higgins point, man, I'm curious. And we're going to find out, right? What is Jaden Higgins? Because last year, as a rookie, trying to figure it out, the offense new to everybody. And, there was just some struggles. Guys was, dropping like flies and all this other kind of stuff. Knock on wood, they have better health fortune this year. But what is Jaden Higgins actually as that opposite receiver or as a potential option as a big body guy inside, or is Nico Collins that? Like, these are guys that are big body that they can move around, right? Use in different ways. And I think as much as we talk about Jalen Noel, because there was an obvious, like, weird thing going on with him not playing over Christian Kirk after a while, like after it was clear that Christian Kirk was both either injured or not as effective as they wanted him to be. Like, they didn't pivot from that soon enough for anybody, right?
Yep.
So, like, that was glaring. Jaden Higgins was kind of more so in a suitable role for himself. But what's that step that he takes, and what is he actually like? What kind of levels can he go to? Is going to be a huge sidebar for the Texans in their offense this year, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for, B. And it's like I said, it's just one of these things. And look, like I said, and we still haven't gotten to our 3 things that we're going to look for heading into training camp. But we may have just, we may have touched on one. So, but B, I want to pivot just a little bit before I get you up out of here, man. And because this isn't just we're not just streaming live on Texans Tailgate. We're also streaming live on Big Sarge Media, Sports Talk with Big Sarge, and we're on Twitter. So B, I want to hop into basketball real quick, because on Sports Talk with Big Sarge, we talk all sports, of course. And I just want to get your view first on Texans Minicamp. And like I said, we'll get back to the Texans, because one thing that I want you to think about, and I think I sent it to you as a topic, is we'll talk about, have the Houston Texans found their Mike Tomlin and DeMeco Ryans. So we'll definitely get back to that. But B, I want to talk about the NBA Finals, man. And we know that shout out to the New York Knicks for defeating the San Antonio Spurs 4-1 to win the NBA Finals championship. And it's crazy, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I felt like the Knicks could have swept the Spurs, but that's just me, and I know we'll get into it. But B, couple of rapid fire questions. One, are the Knicks a one and done team?
They might be. I think that they might be, just because, I mean, think about it. The last 8 years or something like that, it's been a different champion, right? And there's nothing necessarily about them to make you say that they're destined to just rattle off a bunch of championships. Are they going to be right there in the mix 100%? But yeah, at first glance, I gotta say so, just because there's so much parity in the league, and that's credit to the NBA. But I don't want to take away from what we just saw, man. I want people to kind of sit here, regardless of how you feel, like where your fandom and your allegiances lie, or what you feel about the Knicks or New York or whatever, whether you love them or hate them. You gotta appreciate, as a sports fan, as a basketball fan, certainly me as a hoop head, how dominant of a postseason run this was for the Knicks, for a team that was not dominant in the regular season. They were just another really good 50-plus win team that made the playoffs, but this was not a dominant squad until they started making light work of the Eastern Conference. And then, to hell with that conversation about the real NBA Finals was in the Western Conference Finals between the Thunder and the Spurs. The Knicks said, hold on, like hold my beer. Wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? So I want to acknowledge how dominant of a run it was for them. Like, once they got those couple of losses to Atlanta out the way, they started making light work of Philly.
They only lost 3 games in the playoffs, being by a combined of 6 points?
Yeah, they got one of the highest plus minus differentials in of any team to make this kind of run. The only teams that really kind of measure up with this are, like, we're talking about 96 Bulls, 2017 Warriors, right? Like, I'm not saying they're as good as those teams, but I'm saying this run is as good as those runs, and certainly better than the rest of the runs that have happened since, of these one and dones that we've seen in the 8 years since the Warriors last won back to back. So I cannot predict them to be a back to back, just if you're gonna ask me, but that don't mean that I can't tip my hat to the run that they had and how dominant of a run it was, right? Like, they went up against the supposed chosen one. Everybody wanted to crown him, right, Sarge? They wanted to crown Victor Wembanyama as the
After
best
that first game in the
league.
Western Conference Finals, where he had 46 points and night, where he took a miracle 3-pointer
Yeah,
to even get them in overtime.
and look, let's be real. That shot that he took did have the feels of like a moment of like, man, it's just a moment where it turned. It did kind of feel that way, but it's like that's why they play the games.
Yep.
That's why he actually got to go out there and now win the championship. And I said this during the series, man, for a guy that we anointed so quickly.
Yep.
For a guy we anointed so quickly, I feel like we got to also hold him accountable for not being there down the stretch when they needed him in the finals, right? Or are we going to treat him like a kid, or are we going to treat him like a superstar? If we're going to treat him like a superstar, we got to acknowledge when he go on a 1 for 10, 1 for 10, 1 for 11 stretch, when he's throwing the ball to his teammates back, when he doesn't know to slip toward the basket on a pick and roll and picks and pops instead, when he's 7 foot forever, and his point guard who caught a lot of flack is thinking, well, the biggest guy on the floor certainly is going to roll to the basket. Nah, he want to shoot threes. Like, we got to hold him accountable for that, even if we're amazed by the fact that somebody this tall can do all of these things. And he did put up some good counting stats. But you look at the efficiency, you look at the lack of or just it not being enough there, the clutch play, the missed free throws in game 4, right? Like, it just, you got to require more, and he'll learn from it. But the Knicks deserve all the flowers, man.
But you know why I love you so much, man, and why you my brother from another mother? Because
I hit another rapid fire. You said rapid fire, and I started going on a tangent because you was going to ask me something about what I just talked about.
Because this is why I know you my brother from another mother, because you was like, yeah, man, and the Knicks is another, but the Spurs, and I was like, yes, go ahead, be petty, petty, because I'm the exact same way. Hold on, before I get into my take, look what Sean said. Let me go get my yak. This Sarge and B Scott combo is like number 5 plate at the soul food spot.
Hey, already
oxtails, but me,
yeah, I'm glad. Oxtail, this is it. Lucille's, you name it. Wherever you want to get it at.
I'm gonna give the New York Knicks their props, because they were the most dominant team from April to June, and that's when you really got to get hot. And they were also the most healthiest team. Like, people don't realize that in order to make it to, like, in football, the Super Bowl, and in basketball, the NBA Finals, you gotta have health. Health has to be on your side. We've seen it with the Oklahoma City Thunder when they lost their all-pro guard of, what is he, a forward? I'm sorry. And
you talking about Jalen Williams?
Jalen Williams, he is forward, right?
Guard, forward, wing,
combo.
Yeah.
You lose him, then you lose your starting point guard. You still go to 7 games with the Spurs, but I mean, SGA can't do it all by itself. So shout out to the Knicks. We're talking about health. I wonder what a healthy Boston Celtics team would have looked like if Jason Tatum, would have had a lot more time to be able to come back. Indiana Pacers, I mean, they had a terrible season, but they were also without Tyrese Halliburton for the entire season. The Milwaukee Bucks lost Giannis. So, excuse me. So there's a lot of teams that didn't have that weren't healthy, but that's still they still the New York Knicks still would have been a tough matchup for any of those teams. But side note before I jump into talking about the emotional alien, and wait, hold on, let me say this. I'm going to give the Spurs their props for Wemby leading them to the NBA Finals in year 3.
Yes, it was impressive.
Right. But I got to talk about that emotional alien after I talk about this. So everybody's killing Becky Hammond for her comments, because she said no small 1A guys can, lead a team to a championship. And so I get it. She said those comments in 2023, right?
Yeah.
So 2023, she's speaking about what was going on right then, because I'm going to be honest with you, and this is where I got to get back to the New York Knicks and giving their props. They don't win that championship without Mike Brown. Thibodeau does not win that championship. There's no possible way he wins that finals, because he wouldn't have been willing to do the mixing. He wouldn't have put Alvarado in the game with Brunson when they were down by 29 points and they used that small guard combo to come back. He's not putting in Landry Shamet. He's not, letting Mitchell Robinson, he's letting him play, but he's like, hey, just go in there to foul or whatever the case may be. The way that Mike Brown coached in the finals, let me know there's no possible way the New York Knicks would have won. So when Becky Hammon made that comment, she couldn't see into the future. She didn't know that they were going to get OG Anunoby. She didn't know that they were going to fire Tom Thibodeau and then the next year win the NBA Finals, because they went out and got one of the best coaches to ever coach in the NBA in Mike Brown. She didn't know that Cat was going to be, because Cat wasn't there yet, right?
Nope, he was
Cat
not.
wasn't there. They still had DiVincenzo, but they traded for Cat. Mikal Bridges wasn't there yet.
Oh no, I think he was still in Phoenix. I think he was still in Phoenix too. Yeah, they had really just gotten Jalen Brunson at that point, and it was still the R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle kind of crew of guys, and they were still kind of trying to figure it out.
So that's what I don't understand. They're killing her about her comment, but she made the comment 3 years ago, and then okay, B. I know that I said this before. I'm going to say it again. The thoughts and views expressed by Big Sarge on Sports Talk with Big Sarge is Big Sarge's and Big Sarge's alone. Because I don't want you to catch no stray, and I don't want you to catch none of this smoke that I'm about to start. So, whatever they're calling this show now, that's really Gilbert Arenas' show. It used to be Gil's Arena. I don't know what they call it now. Skip to the Nick Young, Josiah, whatever it's called. I don't know what it is. All I know is that Kenyon Martin and Rashawn McCants argue every day when they used to be Gil and Nick Young. But I digress, right? They done brought Skip Bayless over there, and I don't know just how comfortable I feel with them throwing around the N-word so much with Skip Bayless sitting in there, because I'm pretty sure in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking it. Now, I don't have that for a fact. I'm just, what do they call it? Pontificating, right?
Yeah, but we can't be using the N-word around Skip Bayless, man. We cannot do it. Not in good conscience.
At all. So with that being said, B, Kenyon Martin Sr. went on this diatribe tearing Becky Hammon down, and when Skip Bayless said, well, he said she didn't know what she was talking about, and he said, well, she used to be on Popovich's staff as far as assistant coaches. He said, yeah, that probably should have went to somewhere else. So we're talking about one of the best college players, one of the best WNBA players, one of the best WNBA coaches who've won three WNBA titles with the Las Vegas Aces. Another coach who last year her team was barely in the playoff standings, and they went on a 19-1 run to end the season and make it to the WNBA finals, and then win the WNBA finals, who you just don't get a chance to sit on Coach Popovich's bench. Like, if you're part of that tree, you're part of that tree. But B, he went on this diatribe about her saying that she don't know what she's talking about. She don't know what she's doing. And I just want to say something to you, Kenyon Martin Sr., because, I got a little, I know a little bit about you as well, because your son, KJ, played here with the Houston Rockets, right? And, from what I was told, you ain't the brightest of them all either. You ain't the sharpest tool in the box. You ain't the best apple in the orchard. I don't know what words I'm looking for right now, B, but there was a lot of people that told me he always tried to give them advice and say what they should be doing, and they're saying, and that's the dumbest shit I've heard ever since playing basketball. Don't get me wrong, Kenyon Martin was a dog.
Yeah, he was.
Dog. He was the number one player drafted when he came out of Cincinnati. Hey, I'm not taking nothing away from his player skills, but the stuff that you said about Becky Hammon was terrible. Was terrible. For you to try to go and try to destroy that woman's legacy is terrible. And she got way more than you've ever had. So what are you talking about? She's gotten farther than you ever had. So B, I'm sorry that you got caught up in that smoke, but I was thinking about it because Becky Hammond's comments were made in 2023. She couldn't tell what 2026 was going to be. And if we keeping it a buck, B, we keeping it a buck. I know. But if we keeping it a buck, what she said wasn't wrong. Because the Knicks didn't win with Jalen Brunson being their primary guy. Like he got the NBA Finals, MVP, but that could have clearly went to OG Anunoby too.
Yeah, so a couple of things. My boy Sarge say Kenya Martin not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah, man.
He said that boy elevator don't go all the way up to the top floor. That is too fun. I wasn't expecting that shot at Kenya Martin. But to your point about Becky Hammond, let me just say this. Because I actually disagree on what you said about Jalen Brunson. He was definitely like in the finals and in that closeout game, the 45. And look, OG Anunoby, they don't win it without OG Anunoby because OG Anunoby gets the block on De'Aaron Fox and the tip in game 4, which are going to go down as some of the most iconic plays in NBA history and definitely in Knick history. But I would say just about Becky Hammond is that, honestly, she was going off of history and the fact that really you haven't seen nobody win a championship like that with a guard that size since 1990, since Isaiah Thomas. And we already know who Isaiah Thomas is, right? They're not just making those, they're not just falling out the sky. Isaiah Thomas, right? And so to suggest that Jalen Brunson could do the thing that not even Allen Iverson could do, that only really in the modern game Isaiah Thomas has done, been a 6'2" or less, 6'1" or less guard who's the number one option on the team, that ain't happening. It has not happened and it ain't happening. And it wasn't far-fetched for her to say that. And I think, honestly, it's a credit to Brunson, right? I'm with you. I want to get credit to everybody. OG Anunoby, Cat stepped up in a big way. I know he fouled out of the closeout game. But that was a well-constructed team around Jalen Brunson. He don't get there on his own. But it's a credit to what they did, man, and how historic the run is. The fact that he had like a Jordan type of run. I'm not saying he Jordan or even in the conversation, but had a Jordan type of run in the finals, like one that mimics Jordan type of numbers in the finals. And to be able to do that at that size is a credit to him and the team that they put around him. Because when Becky Hammond was talking, like you say, that was not something in the imagination. Just like 10 years ago, we didn't think we was going to see nobody 7'5" doing what Victor Wembanyama is doing, to his credit. That was beyond the imagination. What Jalen, this is why the Knicks story is so cool to me. Jalen Brunson is the other side of that, of what was beyond your imagination. How a dude that size going to lead a team to a championship? We ain't seen that since Isaiah Thomas. And then, like you say, they surround him with guys like OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns. They bring in guys like Josh Hart, of course.
One game.
Josh Hart, of course. They bring in guys along the margins like Landry Shamet and Jose Alvarado, right? Who was like, oh, that's somebody that's going to contribute to a championship team. They made all of that work. So you just got to give them credit, man. It ain't Becky Hammond's fault that she couldn't see something that ain't happened in 35 years. You know?
Exactly. And I had to throw that in there, B, because I'm like, I get it. Because, and especially like in this business, we all make bad takes. We all say things that, I mean, if you believe it then and you're wrong, then that's cool. I just think in this situation, she's not wrong because at the time, she didn't have all these. If she could have seen into the future, she'd have been like, okay, if they're going to get Mike Brown, of course.
Man, Mike, yes. Mike Brown, it's been pointed out, Mike Brown, who has been fired time after time for no good reason.
You heard we got in Sacramento?
Man, Sacramento. I mean, he gets a raw deal everywhere he goes. That's like an underrated story that Mike Brown finally got his due.
Bro,
finally.
he got messed over in Sacramento because the day before he got fired, he talked about De'Aaron Fox not playing defense, and then the next day they fired him. And I'm saying to myself, wow, why? That man is a good coach. I'm glad that he was able to bounce because he got some champion. I mean, he got some rings. He got a ring or some rings from Golden State.
The Warriors. Yeah, he was an assistant with the Warriors for a minute.
So
But this turned out to be a way better situation. Hey,
Yeah.
instead of dying in Sacramento with a fledgling franchise, to at least go over and to go to the Knicks, not when they rebuilding, but they already kind of had a little bit of infrastructure, and all they needed, again, to your point, they needed the right coach, and there he was.
Now let me get back to this emotional alien in the San Antonio Spurs because and you know what it is? I think that Wemby is talented. I do think he's talented. I just hate that the NBA was trying to force him down our throats as being the next great thing, the next best thing, and saying Wemby, 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 Wemby. And I'm saying to myself, are y'all watching him though? He's emotional. One, he's emotional. And at 22 years old, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't, I wasn't well, what do they call it?
Emotionally mature.
He was immature. Yeah, he's immature for his age, but that's his age, and I get it. He's on the biggest stage. I got that part. But them letting him get away with the things that they let him get away with, especially in this playoff run, like the way that he was, pushing people, elbowing people, this, that, and other, didn't want to speak after game 5 of the Western Conference Finals because they lost. Like the different types of things that they let him get away with. I'm saying to myself, so y'all are letting him get away with this because y'all think he's the next best thing, but he's telling you and showing you already, hey, this may be how I am. Like I may be this way. And if he is that way, then what? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, B. I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like the next face of the NBA should be Anthony Edwards, but that's just me. And I know he got some issues off the court. I got that part, that kind of goes hand in hand. But Anthony Edwards got the demeanor. He has the marketability. He has the athletic skills. You get him get him a good player in there. You might see him make a run towards the finals as well. But that's who I would say should be the next face. But you're trying to make Wemby, right? So here's my thing, right? B, please tell me how a 22-year-old who has played basketball for at least 16 years is tired.
Well,
tired, B. He's 22.
So the thing about it is he got to fix that, because that's gonna be the thing that keep him from actually being that guy. You tired at the end of games. The best players take it up a notch, right? The best players take it up a notch, and they do whatever they got to do throughout the game to get there, or whatever they got to do throughout the offseason and during the season to get there. But they do it because
and you 3 years in the league. You 3 years in.
Think about the fact, look, this how important what you're saying is. Like when we talk about this series that they just lost to the Knicks.
Yeah.
They led. SportsCenter, I think, showed a graphic of how the Spurs led for something like 70-something% of the series. 70-something% of the series. And how the Knicks only led for 20-something% of the series. Yeah. But as we all know, they won 4 out of the 5 games, which means that more often than not, they was winning at the end of the game. They had to come back. They had to come from behind. The Spurs would get on their tail to start the game, and then the Knicks would just walk them down because they was in better shape. They were more poised, and they were more prepared for the moment. And specific to this physical part, like that's something that Wemby's got to figure out. Now, I'm not trying to get no excuse, but I will say, like the whole size thing, I do wonder, like, if a guy that tall, I don't know what it's like to be that damn big, to be that tall. Like, I wonder if there's something going, like if he's going to need something extra to be able to get there. Like if it's going to take more conditioning than it would, say, an Anthony Edwards, or just like a normal 6'4", 6'6", 6'8" wing. You know what I mean? Somebody that's 7'5". But he can't be that damn tired at the end of the game, Sarge. Not if he's going to be the face of the league. You can't be huffing and puffing and hands on the knees and
at 22 years old in year B. If this was his rookie year, I'd give him a pass. Hell, I'd probably even give him some sort of pass if this was year 2. This is year 3. How you not know how to condition your body to come into play in the NBA in year 3, B? Year 3. Okay, so he's the next face of at 22. I remember what LeBron looked like at 22. I remember what Kevin Durant looked like at 22. Like I remember you trying to talk about these people who you want to who are the face of the league. Wemby ain't there yet, and your star player, your number one guy, your player that you should be able to count on, and in clutch moments, he shrunk. And go and look at his plus minus. Amazing in the first quarter. Second quarter goes down. Third quarter goes down. Fourth quarter goes down. And I'm not a big plus minus guy because that's the equivalent to QBR for me, and I hate both of them. But I'm using that to say that he started to become less and less effective as the game went on. And if you want to be the next, if you want to be the face of the NBA, you want to be the guy, you want to take that next step, you want to lead your team to a championship, when things start getting tight like that, you should be the one to step up and make those plays. And you should be the one that says, give me the ball. I'm going to do whatever it is I need to do. But and I get it. You're getting pushed around by Mitchell Robinson. He's stronger than you. But then you got other players that, I put it like this, B, and you're the defensive player of the year, right? So when they were coming back down from 29, do you not remember that Brunson put that shot up over him like, bro, I'm not afraid of you. Even on the OG Anunoby tip in, Brunson is shooting over Wemby. Bro, there's no possible way that you're the defensive player of the year. You're 7'5". You're the next great thing in the NBA. And Jalen Brunson is like, I'm not afraid of you. You know what Kobe would do at the end of games? He would impose his will.
OG Anunoby wasn't afraid of him neither.
Didn't he dunk on him?
OG Anunoby wasn't afraid of him. Cat wasn't afraid of him. Mitchell Robinson wasn't afraid of him. Jalen Brunson wasn't afraid of him. Josh Hart can't do nothing with him, but he wasn't afraid of him, right? Like they just had a bunch of dudes that would not fold, that would not fear Wemby, dare to fear Wemby. And look, man, this conditioning thing is super important. But what's funny about like your point about the early anointing of Wemby, part of it I can see being the fact that we just have never really seen nobody like this. Like I say this all the time. Normally, you know this, you can watch enough basketball throughout history to know that normally somebody that's tall, like outside of Kareem, who is still not Wemby's height, but close to it. But outside of Kareem, guys that tall don't normally be that good. Normally, the super awkwardly tall dude don't be good at all. He just be tall, and the only reason why he play basketball is because he tall. Wemby actually got some skills, and people not used to seeing somebody that tall have those type of skills. But the other side of being that size is that the only way to really deal with you is to be physical with you. Like we got to make it hard on you somehow, because we can't block your shot, but we can try to deny you the ball. We can try to roughhouse you a little bit and try to win the game that way. And you got to be in shape enough or have the physicality to take that on, right? Like Shaq, for example, which was a criticism in his heyday. But Shaq, when he was at his best, was in shape. And when things started to kind of go left was when he kind of let his conditioning slip a little bit.
But even that I could give Shaq a pass because of his physical makeup. Look, if Wemby was built like Yao Ming, I'd be like, yeah, I understand, bro. You're carrying around a lot of weight at that size. And I get it. I don't know how much he weighs, but people are like, man, look, he might be sneaky certain amount of weight because he is so tall. But
yeah,
it's
an awkward height to be. Like we gotta admit that it's beyond tall. He's past tall. So I don't know what that's like. But the point is, and I said this a minute ago, he got to figure that out, right?
He got to figure it out.
It might take a little bit of extra work, and we can't this might even be the bigger point. We can't anoint him until he does figure that out. You can be in awe, you can tip your cap, and the Spurs deserve a lot of credit, but we can't anoint him until he's coming up in those big moments. And you give him credit for what he did against OKC. They don't get to the finals if Wemby is not brilliant against OKC, but you saw the difference in that Knicks series, and his conditioning was exposed.
If Chet wasn't so scary, but that's for another time.
That is true. What if Chet actually shows up for that series? Are we having a totally different conversation?
And I still think the Knicks win the finals, but it's just a totally different conversation. Because speaking of Wemby and him being the face, and there's a lot of chatter around that. Oh man, the Spurs will be back, man. They got a young team, and they're built to win. And I'm saying to myself, well, one, their coach is going to have to get better, because Mitch Johnson made a lot of mistakes in that finals. There was a lot of things that he could have done better. Now, I'm not even talking about playing Dylan Harper over De'Aaron Fox. That's one of the things, because hindsight is 2020. But Dylan Harper can ball. Dylan Harper can ball. I'm not taking anything away from Dylan Harper. But just real quickly, I feel like I don't feel like, how can I put this? I'm trying to be politically correct. Like, I feel like the Spurs are going to be dry humping a long time before they finally get some.
They could.
I just feel like they're gonna be dry humping a whole lot until they finally like it ain't just like they dry hump this year. They could dry hump 3 years from now. They could dry hump 5 years from now. Then they might be built to win. But I don't think just because they're young and they have some talent on their team that they should be automatically penciled in to go right back to the NBA Finals, especially in the Western Conference.
I'm gonna go ahead and say pause before this. It's definitely a sausage fest in the West. It's a sausage fest. It's a lot. It's way more humpers than there is to be humped around, because you got a crowded Western Conference. They're not the only young core. They just went up against one that's gonna be motivated, that they went 7 against, that has won a championship, right, with the Thunder. And I think they're going to be right there. You mentioned Anthony Edwards earlier, your preferred face of the league or not. Anthony Edwards ain't going nowhere. Like
if they get Giannis.
If they get Giannis, and we already know, I think we can say this much. They're going to be they're a team that's willing to be aggressive, because they've done enough. We've seen them do enough now over the years, between trading for Rudy Gobert, right? Deciding to give up on Cat and make that move for Julius Randle, I guess, because they thought that was a better fit with Rudy Gobert. And of course, Cat, coach too. Yeah, exactly. Got a good coach. They have the right sort of nucleus and aggressiveness to make you feel like, whether it's Giannis or something else, that they're gonna do something to up the ante with that team. Now, I know they didn't bring back Nickeil Alexander-Walker last year. They might have wanted to do that. That might have been a good idea. But with Anthony Edwards there, Minnesota gonna be in the mix. I don't think Denver is dead, even though they had a disappointing year, or a disappointing end to the year.
Construction is bad, being they ain't got no money and they can't move off no money.
Right. No, they have issues. But what I'm saying is, it is a competitive enough conference, and I have not even mentioned the Rockets yet. Right, who I think healthy are also going to be a competitive, tough out. Okay, a tough team to go up against in the playoffs if they are healthy. So we got a lot of really good Western. I don't think you can pencil in anybody no more than you can pencil in the New York Knicks in the finals next year, with Tyrese Halliburton coming back healthy, with the Celtics constantly being in the mix. We'll see what Philly looks like. They're kind of, I know they're changing leadership, but you got enough teams over there. Okay. Detroit, obviously. We'll see what Cleveland ends up doing, but there are just enough teams that I think in both conferences to make this thing a crowded enough field.
Yeah. Well, B, I'm going to ask you this. This is the last. What am I doing here? This is the last thing that I'm going to ask you about. Hold on, I got to fix this other issue I got going on over here. There we go. Whoa, look good. Hold on, B.
Oh,
My bad.
hey, got to see that cowboy hat shine, boy.
You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
B. Last basketball thing that I have right now. All right, the last basketball question. So there's been a lot made about the Houston Rockets drafting Reed Sheppard over Stephon Castle, who ended up going to the San Antonio Spurs, who, by the way, also hit a rookie wall as well.
Yeah.
I mean, not a rookie wall, excuse me, but hit a wall in the finals.
Yeah. Sophomore slump in the finals, if you will.
Yeah, he hit a wall big time. And so but there's a lot being made about the Rockets taking Reed Sheppard, and a lot of people saying, look, he should have took Stephon Castle. Before I give my take, B, do you believe that Houston Rockets general manager Raphael Stone made the wrong decision by taking Reed Sheppard over Stephon Castle?
So here's how I look at it. I think that if you did a redraft, and you just said earlier on a different topic that hindsight is 2020. Mm-hmm. I think in a redraft, if you knew that Stephon Castle was going to be the impact player that he has turned out to be, that Stephon Castle probably goes number 1 overall in the draft. Probably. Okay. Based off of what he did at UConn, they won a national championship. And if you get the benefit of hindsight, that's what a redraft is. Because now you can see into the future, and you know that the Spurs went to the finals with Stephon Castle. You know that Stephon Castle was the rookie of the year, despite being the 4th overall pick, right? Like, you got the benefit of all of that information. You're taking Stephon Castle number 1 overall, which is to say, I know Rockets fans just care about the Rockets, but by that theory, all 3 teams that picked ahead of the Spurs probably should have considered taking Stephon Castle number 1 overall. That part would be the miss. So you would have to, if you're going to call out Raphael Stone and the Rockets, you got to call out the Atlanta Hawks, the Washington Wizards, and the Houston Rockets, because I think Stephon Castle has done enough to make the case that he probably should have been number 1 overall. And by the way, talk about hindsight, wasn't nobody talking about him being number 1 overall at the time. Facts. Nobody. Even with his success at UConn, if you go back and look at the mocks from back then, they had him anywhere from 6th, like he was not even in the top 3 much, so it's not like the Rockets were far off in not picking him. Now, we're talking about a weak draft class and all of that, but I think in the hindsight, yeah, Stephon Castle would go number 1 overall. At the time and in the moment, and I think you can still justify this today, Reed Sheppard is a more logical fit for where the Rockets were and for what they are trying to do. I love the idea of Reed Sheppard. I feel like Reed Sheppard and Amen Thompson complement each other in ways to where I understood the frustration of folks wanting to see Reed Sheppard in the starting lineup. Because once Fred go down, and in the interest of preserving this all-time great who's 37 years old and Kevin Durant who's still playing at an all-NBA level, you should ask as much of these you should see as much as you can from these young players. Let's see what Reed and the men and Alperen Sengun can form together. Like, I understood people's thirst for that because their games seem to fit and complement each other so well. Reed Sheppard got work to do off the dribble, but Amen Thompson, just off of his sheer athletic ability and just physical superiority, is able to get to where he wants to get and be able to set up Reed Sheppard if they run the right plays, right? Like they got a perfect real yin and yang if they let them play together, right? So you could see that. At the time, they still had Jalen Green. What did Ime Udoka just say at the end of the season about what they wanted to address with their roster? Having fewer shooting and also having fewer duplicates. Now, you're not trying to call nobody out when you say that, but it is true that they got some guys that are duplicates, right? Like, we love the Terror Twins, Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, but they got some overlap skill set, and even some when Tari's shot is not falling, they have overlap offensive limitations, if you will, in terms of being able to get your own shot. So like Stephon Castle would have been that type of overlap. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we saw a report come out there that he wasn't too keen on going to the Rockets because of the presence of Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet, an established veteran in VanVleet, and at the time, a young player that they were seemingly investing in. So you just got to look at and frame it within the context of the situation. Now, I will say that I'm more about getting the best player as opposed to the best fit when it comes to basketball, because I think the best players can figure out how to fit. It's not like football where you need scheme fits. You need this guy to be able to fit into your scheme. You need your coaches to play up to, or to call their plays to what their players' skill sets are and all of that. You need everything to kind of sing together. In basketball, you get the best players to get out there and they figure it out. So I do understand that. But if you're looking at it from where they were at the time and what made sense, and even where they are right now and what makes sense, and I understand Stephon Castle has done way more in his first 2 seasons, okay, than Reed Sheppard. It's not even fair or worth comparing the 2 careers up to this point. It's advantage Steph Castle by a mile, but the fit is absolutely how I think they could justify drafting Reed Sheppard in that spot over Steph Castle, even if you want to acknowledge that Castle's been better.
So you touched on something that I spoke about. I think I spoke about this last week, maybe week before last. I think I guess it had to be about a week and a half ago, because I kept seeing Stephon Castle's name coming up on social media a lot. Just Stephon Castle. And what I mean by his name coming up a lot is coming up a lot from Rockets fans. Look at how Stone picked the wrong person. Ime could have had him and blah, blah, blah. He was high on it. Why didn't he take him? Blase this, blase that. And so I had to finally say something. I was like, at the time that the Houston Rockets selected Reed Sheppard, they did not know that they were not going to have Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green and get Kevin Durant. And so just like what you said, duplicates, if they would have drafted Stephon Castle, they would have went right back to when it was Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. That's exactly what they would have had again, because you said duplicates. They would have got the same guard that they already had. And at the time, they did not know that they were going to trade him to get Kevin Durant. So what did they need? They needed shooting, because they had Fred VanVleet who can shoot but goes to the rack. Alpi needs to paint. Jabari needs to paint. Amen needs to paint. Tari needs to paint. And at the time, Jalen Green needed to paint, even though he was becoming a better three-point shooter. His last season, he was really, really good at the three. I think he was the Rockets' best three-point shooter on the team, as a matter of fact. I think it was him and then Dylan. They had, as far as percentages concerned, they had the best percentages that year. But if I'm Rafael Stone, I'm thinking the exact same way. I have a lot of players who can get to the rack. I don't have one player that when my players get to the rack, they can kick it out and he can shoot it and hit the three. I don't have any shooters. So let me go and get a shooter. Reed Sheppard is a good shooter. What's happening, and the reason why people are criticizing him and people are saying that Stephon Castle is better than him. And side note, hey, if you switch them, you're talking about Reed Sheppard and saying, why didn't the Rockets draft Reed Sheppard? Why did they take Stephon Castle? Because in that Spurs system, there's a whole different dynamic in which they play. And I'm going to be honest with you. If the Spurs had Reed Sheppard, they win the championship. Because not if he shoot how he did against the Lakers, though. They would have needed him to shoot more like how he did during the regular season. Well, let me hold on, B. So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. The problem is that in Houston, Reed is playing out of position. In San Antonio, he'd have had wide open shots. He doesn't have to create for himself, even if he's playing off De'Aaron Fox, right? Even if he's playing off De'Aaron Fox. Now, they may lose some on the defensive end. Of course, Castle is a better defender than Reed Sheppard, but he's still learning his way around the NBA. And, he didn't have the best of defensive series either. But with that being said, You got Reed Sheppard playing out of position. That's why he really looks bad, because he isn't an on-ball guard. He isn't a point guard. You're trying to make him a point guard. He's not. I for the life of me, I can't understand why the Rockets never use some of the Golden State Warriors offense the way that they bring Curry off of those screens, because Reed Sheppard is a really good catch and shoot, a good catch and shoot player. But when you got him at the top of the key trying to create, or you got him standing in the corner waiting for KD to try to create, or you waiting on our men to try to create, and then he's getting there, but then by the time he gets the ball, they've already shifted the defense over towards him. So at that point, if you're just going to have him standing, you've already lost. Man, I would have run Reed Sheppard and brought him up through the lane and let Alpy set a pick and come back and let Jabbar set another pick, and he come around there, and as soon as he catch that joker. Or not only Curry, hey, Klay Thompson, use some of his plays, because Klay Thompson can't dribble, but he can catch and shoot like no other. So that's what I'm saying. He's playing out of position, and that's why it looks the way that it looks, because there's a lot. Now, on the defensive end, yes, Reed, and he said this himself, hey, he got a lot to fix as far as the defensive end is concerned. But back to my original point, B, at the time, they already had a Stephon Castle type player in Jalen Green. So you don't draft another Jalen Green. You draft, and then, so I'm like this, B. I'm for best fit, unless the guy is uber talented, right? If the guy is uber talented, like I'm taking him, right? Because you look at it like this too, B. Go back to that. What draft was that? That Jordan went third, right?
He did behind Hakeem and Sam Bowie, and that was because Portland already had a Jordan-like player. Hey, and look, I'm glad you mentioning this, because I think these things are very comparable. All right, one thing I do want to say, since you mentioned this about Reed and them not running enough of them Curry and Klay Thompson type of plays, I do want to see. Now, we've already heard from them that they're not going to make too many changes to their coaching staff, okay? But I do want to see what it looks like with Fred back healthy, and we'll see. I'm wishing the best for Fred, who said with you on the Unguarded podcast that he felt like he's in the best shape of his life. And, of course, they always say that, but I'm hoping it's true. I'm taking his word at face value, and I can't wait to see what he looks like with now a more experienced Reed, and can now, because see, Fred, even though he's undersized, he's sturdy enough and experienced enough. He's not a liability on defense in the same way that Reed is, and because of that, you can actually play them together, even though it doesn't seem like it because they're both small, but you can.
Fred's strong.
And Fred is strong, right? Probably one of the stronger guards that you'll find for his position. But the point being, if you got somebody that can set up plays like Fred and somebody that can shoot like Reed, you don't want to do too much of it, because again, you're a little bit undersized. But in doses, I want to see what that look like when Fred and Reed actually share the floor together, and they got some more shooters out there, whether it's Jabari and KD, and I guess Şengün would be out there with them. But I want to see what that looks like for one thing. But back to the point about Castle, and I'll say this is how, to me, it's similar to the Jordan thing, and it's even similar to the Jalen Brunson thing in terms of, if you knew he was going to be this good, obviously he has now outplayed what the expectation was, right? Like, I had seen more of Stephon Castle than I had of Reed Sheppard. And I can be honest, at the time I thought, man, Reed Sheppard, didn't he come off the bench? And then I started looking and remembering what he was, and I can see the vision. But Stephon Castle at the time kind of made more sense to me, like in the moment. But I think even then with that, I didn't think Stephon Castle was going to turn out to be what he ended up turning out to be. And nobody did, because going back to my earlier point, if so, he'd have probably went number 1 overall. So what I'm saying is, if the Blazers knew that Michael Jordan was going to be Michael Jordan, with all due respect to Clyde the Glide, they would have took Michael Jordan, right? if Becky Hammond knew that all that stuff that was going to happen that we talked about with the Knicks, with not just Jalen Brunson being there, but all the moves they was going to make, bringing in Mike Brown, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and everything, Cat and everything. Okay, different conversation. If the Rockets knew that Stephon Castle was going to be as good as he was, like, that is just a credit to him playing a little bit above what the expectation was, not as much of a simply a miss by the Rockets, who again were going for more of a fit. And never mind the fact that they might have gotten a message from Stephon Castle in his camp that, hey, I don't really know. Not only might y'all question my fit, I question my own fit. I don't think I fit there with no Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks and Amen Thompson. Like, I don't think I fit, like that could be a thing too. And I'm saying, you know what? Yeah, we agree.
I think we
Reed Sheppard's a better fit. So that to me is the difference. It's like, okay, if you knew he was going to be this good, which you didn't, and nobody did because he would have went number one overall, then maybe you would have drafted him. But at the time, you're thinking, they said this even, Sarge, not a lot of difference between the top of the draft, the top of the lottery, and the middle of the lottery. We got to remember what this draft class was at the time. And it's proven to be that. It's proven to be that, right? The number one picked and played his way out the rotation. Alex Sarr is a decent player, but, we having this Reed Sheppard conversation. Matas Buzelis was like the number 11 pick for Chicago, and he turned out to be one of the better players. Like, it's a weird draft. So it's not.
Is he like Polish or something? That's the one that went off against the Rockets when in Chicago.
Yes,
when they played. Yeah, I remember because I was at that game. I was like, "Oh, that dude is off."
In a redraft, he might go third. They might have drafted him like that. That's goes to show you how weird of a draft that was. So you got to give him a little bit of grace. This is, what do they call that? Definitely hindsight of 2020, but this is like a revisionist
Stockholm
history.
Syndrome.
A Stockholm syndrome, revisionist history, all of the above, man. All of the above.
All right, B, let's hop back into some football and then let me get you up out of here, man, because look, we didn't had another one of those like we on the phone again.
Yeah. People don't know.
Two quick things and then we'll be out of here, B. The first thing is I'm a firm believer that the Houston Texans have found their Mike Tomlin and head coach DeMeco Ryans. And I'm not just saying as far as coaching ability or record is concerned. I'm talking about the longevity aspect and the longevity piece of it, because I can see DeMeco Ryans being here for as long as he wants to be here. And I think that he wants to be here for a long time. And I think that even when they, may have some down years, it won't be as bad as, when Bill O'Brien got fired and then the rebuild that they had before they finally got DeMeco. I think that the Houston Texans have solidified their coach for a very, very, very long time. And with the way that his football mind works, and if he, sticks with a good general manager, because I do believe that Nick Caserio, I think he's made, some questionable picks and decisions when it came to on the offensive side of the ball before this offseason. We could debate that at another time. But as long as he has a good, general manager that is on the same page as he is, I think that DeMeco Ryans is like the next Mike Tomlin for the next Mike Tomlin in NFL when it comes to that longevity aspect.
Yeah, I like the longevity point because DeMeco Ryans, to his own credit and the whole organization's credit, but focus on DeMeco here, he is off to a hell of a start. Like, he has already bought himself up some equity to where I think, like, even if they had, knock on wood, they don't, but even if they had a down year this year, he has built up enough equity already to get the benefit of the doubt to run it back again and try to figure it out. And I think, just to be clear, that they're going to be at least as good this year as they were this past year. And honestly, if that offense get itself together, they should be a Super Bowl contender, flat out. Like, the Houston Texans should be a Super Bowl contender in 2026. So when you think about that, Sarge, the first 4 years of his career, of his head coaching career for the Houston Texans, they win, at least in the first 3 years, they win no less than one playoff game. And then in the fourth year, they are a Super Bowl contender. Let's see what they do this year. But he is already off to one of the better starts that you could ask for a head coach, short of having won the Super Bowl, which they obviously have not done yet and have an opportunity to do this year. So I think the longevity point is a good one. Where I really make the Mike Tomlin comparison, and this feels like sort of an intangible thing because it ain't no QBR plus minus that's gonna really tell you about this, right? There ain't no advanced stat on this. But and I get into the advanced stats too, but I'm also into the people side of the game. And D'Amico Ryans, like Mike Tomlin, is just an elite leader, right? I think we get real caught up in the X's and O's. Defensive minded head coach, offensive minded head coach. What kind of system does he run? Does he run a cover two? Is he man to man? Does he blitz a lot? 3-4, is it a 4-3? Is it the Shanahan offense? Is it the Patriots offense? Like, we get caught up in a lot of that stuff that is important, but you also got to have, who's a good X's and O's guy? Mike McDaniel. McDaniel, the former Miami Dolphins coach that's now the coordinator for the Chargers. But did he have the elite leadership, and did he give off the aura of like, hey, I gotta respect this guy, like a culture setter? Some of these intangible things that a guy like a Mike Tomlin, a guy like a D'Amico Ryans bring you, no. And I think that's the hidden value. That's the hidden value on top of the fact, again, the important piece about like the actual football stuff.
Yep.
Ain't no question about D'Amico Ryans as a defensive mind or as a defensive play caller or a defensive coordinator, unless I'm missing something, right?
Yeah.
He's established there. He did his thing with the 49ers as a coordinator, has done his thing with the Texans. They've put together one of the best defenses in the league. We're sure about that. And then on top of that, he's got that intangible leadership aspect of it to where he is somebody that people want to play for, or at the very least, they got like a standard and a culture set there that's not worth, to me, disrupting for as long as they're gonna be successful.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. B. He's one of the when I look at D'Amico, I look at what Mike Tomlin was. Mike Tomlin was a coach who is going to coach you hard, but is also going to let you know, I respect you as a man. I respect you as a man, and when we on this football field, we all got the same common goal, and we just trying to win. And so, I've heard so much about D'Amico. And look, I'm not gonna. I would be lying to you if I said that everybody, everybody on that football team, past and maybe some present. I don't know just yet because I haven't really gotten a chance to talk to the players, as far as one-on-one a lot this year. But there's been some past players. There's been some players that have been with the Houston Texans that didn't like D'Amico. They didn't like his coaching style. And if you can't, then maybe it is time for you to find another job or somewhere else to be, because I can see if you had that. And look, we're talking about adult males who was the best of the best since Pop Warner, middle school, high school, college, and then you get to the pros, and then you may be a special teamer where you was everything at your last stop. And so every man that plays in the NFL is very competitive. They want to play, they want to be out on the field, they want to do things, and just sometimes it ain't your time or you ain't ready. And so sometimes when a coach has to make that type of decision and tell you ain't ready, then it may rub some people the wrong way. So I'm not gonna say that.
Let me ask you something though, since you brought that up. I'm because you connected, and it's something I heard from being around, and have also got a sense for. But it's interesting to me because you mentioned how everybody, like, D'Amico not for everybody, and nobody is really, but D'Amico specifically here, I have noticed that it does seem like he does best with the younger players. Like the younger players do a really good job of buying in, and that it's not that the older players don't, but that to me, from what I've seen, and I could be wrong about this, you check me if I'm wrong. What I've seen, the pushback has been much more of a veteran that thinks that they are, whether they feel like they're old more than they are, or whatever the case may be. But the young guys, especially like the Will Andersons of the world, right? Kamari Lassiters of the world, like those are guys that at worst are like indifferent and at best really buy into the culture once they get here. You tell me if I'm off base on that, but I feel like that's what it is. It's like they got to really kind of hit on that right culture guy from a veteran standpoint. But the young guys that they identify are guys that they suspect will take well to D'Amico's style of coaching.
Well, what do they say, B? You don't know what you don't know. So a lot of these young guys, they don't know. They ain't never been under another NFL coach. The only NFL coach, and the only way they know how to do it is whatever D'Amico say. That's how you're supposed to do it. So you go back and you look at these guys. When you look at Tank, Kamari, Kalen, CJ, Will, Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, like Kay Stover. Like you look at the Ariante Urser, you look at these young guys.
Henry To'oTo'o.
Yeah, Henry To'oTo'o. Like and Derek Stingley Derek Stingley is the best of the best, and he knows who's a good coach and who's not a good coach. So his first couple of years in the league, he know that he wasn't in a very stable or a stable organization. Let me just put it like that. In a stable organization or a stable situation. So you don't know what you don't know, and you never forget your first, B. So this is the D'Amico Ryans is the only thing that a lot of these young guys have ever known, and that's a really, really good thing, because I put it like this: when you go back and you look at some of the pre D'Amico years as far as players are concerned, maybe Kenya Green is a different player if he comes in with D'Amico Ryans and is not under Chris Strausser. Maybe, just maybe, Damian Pierce may be a different type of back if he comes in with the D'Amico Ryans and not already been there. So, like I said, a lot of these young guys, they gravitate because D'Amico also has the background. D'Amico has the background to say, let me put it like this: he has the background and the proof to say, hey man, if you listen to me, you could be successful. Look at what I did in college. Look what I did in the pros. Look what I did as an assistant coach, then a coordinator, now as a head coach. Like, if you've been under D'Amico Ryans since 2023, the only thing you've ever known is making the playoffs, not making the playoffs. Like, if they wouldn't have made the playoffs last year, some of those players probably would have went crazy, because that's the only thing that they knew. Hey, look, man, I like the way that this feels. I like the way that making the playoffs feel, because I've made it the past 2 years. Like, they were very upset and disappointed that they didn't win the AFC South, because that's the only thing they know. Winning the AFC South, playing wild card weekend, and then playing in the divisional round. Like, there's guys, and that's why even, side note, when we go back to, when we look at a player like CJ Stroud, like, okay, cool, you can say whatever it is you want to say about him, and you don't think he should get paid, but all he's ever done since he's been with the Houston Texans is win. And so only thing that D'Amico Ryans has ever done is win, and all those young players ever known is winning.
So here's the thing, just to throw a quick wrinkle into this D'Amico Ryans storyline and story arc. This is the only thing that I could see sort of doing him in. And I really wonder how much. Here's the question, Sarge. Who gets held accountable if and when the offense fails? And I'm not saying it's going to. I'm just throwing this out there as a hypothetical. I don't think it should be D'Amico Ryans, to be clear. I don't because I don't think it's D'Amico. If it fails, I don't think it's necessarily his fault, because I'm not sure how much all of this was is necessarily his idea per se. Like, I don't think he's making these decisions on the offense unilaterally. Like, I don't think he just.
What do we consider failing? Are we by
if they
what metric are we using?
I'm saying similar to like what if it's like last year where the defense is all time great and the offense at best is average and God forbid takes a step back, right? Like that's the catastrophic scenario for the Texans is if the offense instead of the glass half full view that a lot of us have is like year 2 they should progress. CJ Stroud should be more comfortable. Nick Haley should be more comfortable. They should be better. What if for some crazy reason, whether it's injuries or just performance, they take a step back? The offense go in the wrong direction. That's the thing.
Injuries, you got to give them a pass, though, right? If they got injuries, you got.
Oh no, I definitely think so. But what I'm saying is the point really more so is like what ultimately does in a defensive head coach is when they can't get the offense right, or whoever is not getting the offense right, and the head coach end up being the fall guy. I don't think this is going to happen to DeMeco, just to be clear. But I do think it's important for, as a group, as a team, as an organization, for them to raise the level of the offense to match the standard that DeMeco Ryans, to his credit, has set over on the defensive side of the ball. That's why Nick Haley is so important. Like this is not something that I'm putting on DeMeco Ryans, but I do feel like defensive head coaches unfairly take either fairly or unfairly take the fall for when the offense does not perform. So I would just throw that out there as the one thing that I would keep an eye out for.
Sorry, I caught a Charlie horse. That's wild.
We've been sitting for a minute. If we're gonna do 2-hour shows, we gotta have like stretch breaks.
You know right.
We got the people. We here with family, so y'all got to see us stretch a little bit. If I gotta crack my knuckles or pop my neck or whatever it is that's going on, y'all got to just get comfortable with that.
Hey, look, what you call this? TikTok seen me over here stretching. I put you on the main screen right there, but I forgot I was on TikTok, and they over there like, "You okay?" But B. So let me say this. So, okay, because to answer your question, I have to put it this way. DeMeco's going on his 4th year.
Yeah.
Right.
But before you make your point, I just want to say he would not be the first coach, period. But certainly not the first black coach to get railroaded. He wouldn't be. I'm just saying. I'm knock on wood. I love the McNairs, love DeMeco. Don't think it's gonna happen. I'm just saying. It wouldn't be the first time it happened.
Hey, look. DeMeco wouldn't get railroaded like that. DeMeco would probably have to go. How many games is in the season? 17? 18 weeks with 17 games, right?
That's right.
They would have to go like 0-17 for 3 years in a row for them to say, you know what, DeMeco, this just ain't working out. And now I can't see that. But I will say this, and I don't think because they love DeMeco. Like they love DeMeco not only as a coach, but as just a person. Period.
Rightfully so.
But B, you look at like there's been a common theme if you look at it over the last 3 years and even going into year 4. So if you had to take an educated guess, who do you think put the defense together?
If I had to take an educated guess on who put the Texans defense together,
yes,
I'm gonna go with DeMeco Ryans.
So, and if you had to take an educated guess on who's been putting the offense together, who would you say?
I'm gonna say at the top, Nick Caserio and whoever else he might delegate to. So Caserio, and I'll say Caserio and company, whatever company look like.
So, with that being said, right? You just said that, of course, it's a defensive-minded coach, of course. So when you look at that, B, right? When you look at that, what has the defense been over the last 3 years?
Incredible, and only getting better. On this type of trajectory up.
What have we been talking about as far as the offensive side of the ball has been concerned?
Can't get right.
Right. Even DeMeco said this year, "Hey man, look, we got to find some way to get some type of consistency because we know that our defense has been good because they've been together for so long and they're consistent because they know who's going to do what, when, where, why." Kamara knows exactly what Kalen's gonna do. Kalen knows exactly what Sting's gonna do. Sting knows exactly what Petrie gonna do. Petrie knows exactly what Will gonna do. Zeus know what everybody like. They all know what they're gonna do. But on that offensive side of the ball, think about it now, B. Was D'Amico that pulled the trigger to get Ed Ingram and Laken Tomlinson and what's the other Cam Robinson?
Cam Robinson. Yeah,
that wasn't a D'Amico type thing. I mean, that wasn't a D'Amico saying let's go out and get that. And one person who's watched the offensive line the entire time, excuse me, has been Nick Caserio. So I would say that if the offense is a failure, and Nick Caserio also hired Nick Caley, his guy, his guy. Cole Popovich is whose guy?
Nick
See what I'm saying?
Caserio.
Jerry Shklisky is his guy.
Yeah.
Like these are Nick Caserio type guys. So if you are having inefficiency on the offensive side of the ball, that won't fall back on D'Amico Ryans. That's actually going to fall back on Nick Caserio. And I'm gonna be honest with you, B. The Texans can't afford to have CJ Stroud going into a new offensive system every 2 years. Because if Caley doesn't work out and you about to give CJ, you about to back up the Brinks truck for CJ, like, and whether you want to or not, what the market dictates is that. The only other way I see them getting rid of CJ, you know what? I'm not going to even say that because then people will try to clip it up and be like, well, Sarge said that the Texans going to get rid of CJ. No, because I know that the Texans love CJ and they know what he's capable of doing. And this year, B, this is why I think that's going to be different this year, because they actually made a concerted effort to get the offensive side of the ball stronger by getting those offensive linemen, by getting David Montgomery, by looking at just what they have, by drafting Rutledge. Like
they brought in Foster Moreau as a tight end who Will Anderson brought up like not prompted, like he wasn't asked about Foster Moreau, he just brought him up. So like and look, that's kind of a under the radar type of name, but this is just, to your point, the effort to make them a more physical offense.
Yep, for sure. So we'll see. So yeah, so with that being said, man, I don't see, it is, how can I put this? Because I'm a lot of people may not like when I say this, and I know we got to get up out of here, B. And this may be something that we'll talk about at another time. Bill O'Brien probably would have still been with the Houston Texans if he wouldn't have got power hungry. If he doesn't get power hungry and want to be like Bill Belichick, he probably would have been with the Texans way longer instead of getting fired in week 4. Right? Wasn't it week 4 going into week 5?
Yep. It was after week 4 because they had all of the Texans head coaches up to that point in the building at the same time, because for whatever reason, Dom Capers and Gary Kubiak, because they played the Vikings and Gary Kubiak was coaching with the Vikings at the time, and they took a picture together with all 3 of them, and then he was fired like the next week.
Yep.
And then after that, they proceed to hire 3 more guys over the next 3 years, basically double up that head coaching total of franchise history just in the next few years. But to me though, Sarge, this is why year 2 of Nick Caley is so important, that they get this thing right, because again, already in the D'Amico Ryans era, and no fault of D'Amico Ryans' own, but for whatever reason, the Bobby Slowick part didn't work out. So they'd already fired the offensive coordinator. And we looking right here in the chat where front runner 2104 says Caley is not the guy. I ain't saying he is or he ain't, but that's a feeling out there. It's still an open question on whether he is the guy or not. I feel like year 2 is going to be the year where that question is asked again and definitely answered, because it's a no excuses type of year to me. It's a no excuses type of year. They have done all of the things that you talk about with the offensive line, brought in a bell cow running back in David Montgomery, while keeping Woody Marks in year 2 as like in a much better role that I like him for, as somebody as the number 2 change of pace back, somebody they can throw the ball to out of the backfield. really utilize his skill set with David Montgomery as the real hammer in the backfield. So it should be there. I mentioned them weapons. We'll see what that end up looking like. But it's a no excuse, no nonsense type of year for that offense for me. And whoever we want to hold accountable, Nick Caley, Nick Caserio, y'all put this thing together. Let's see. Let's make something shake out here, man.
I'm gonna tell you like this, B. I'm gonna tell you the same thing I told DJ last week when we were on air. You heard me say earlier that I think that the Texans are gonna have the best. I think that the Texans have the best wide receiver core in the AFC South, right?
I remember.
I also believe that this year that the Houston Texans will have a top 5 to 7 offense in the AFC. I believe that. I believe that because, and the reason why is it has nothing to do with CJ being in a contract year. I just think that they finally got. I think that they finally made a concerted effort to protect him. One, and then if Nick Caley, being a second year play caller, because you also got to look at it like this, B. When CJ did in his rookie year, CJ was the one who did a lot. It's like CJ did a lot, but then in year 2, they still had Chris Strausser, bro. Chris Strausser was. I'm gonna put it like this: one of our colleagues ran into a former Houston Texans offensive lineman on last week, and he said, I wish I would have never met Chris Strausser. I wish I would have never met him, been under his guidance or his leadership. None of that. And B, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like remember when he came and he came and actually talked to us. I think they made him available, and I was like, hey man, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? And those answers he was giving, he was like, nah. And we know that Cole Popovich was the one trying to fix the problem. So, when you look at Bobby's last year, it just was doomed from the start when you don't have the offensive line that you need. But I feel like with Nick Caley and Cole Popovich year 2, I'm more curious to see what the relationship between CJ and Jerry Shaplinski is going to be like in year 1, because he was so used to Gerard Johnson.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's an underrated kind of personnel change or a coaching change is the quarterback. First they changed the offensive coordinator, then they changed the quarterback's coach because they steady trying to find answers. And on the Chris Strausser point, since you mentioned it, I do want to point out, and not to pile on Nick Caserio, but whoever's decision it was in the beginning to pair an offensive coordinator, a first-year offensive coordinator in Bobby Slowick with a guy in Chris Strausser who had never coached in the same scheme. Like, you want your coordinators and
he came from the coach, right?
Either wherever he came from, it wasn't. He had never run the Shanahan Kubiak scheme that they was running, and you want your coordinator and your coach to be simpatico to some degree. You want them to be on the same page, and to the point that you just made, we at the very least know whether you like the offense or not, or the system or not. We do know at the very least that Cole Popovich and Nick Caley come from the same place, come from the same background, speak the same language. And we've seen, I think we even saw over the course of last year, even though the offensive line still didn't, like some of them nerd numbers we were talking about, some of the metrics, they didn't necessarily perform well in those, and they were better over time. But some of the fundamental things we did see improve under Nick Caley and with the first year under Nick Caley and the first year with Cole Popovich as the offensive line coach. So the hope is that they can build on that.
I just hope he doesn't, do not get conservative. Don't get conservative. Just
or better yet, stop being, because they were conservative. They were flat out conservative last year.
You gotta
stop
score.
that.
You gotta score. All right, B. Got to get you up out of here quickly. 3 things that you want to see heading into training camp for the Houston Texans.
Unleash Jalen Noe. Unleash Jalen Noe. I said that earlier, but that was one of my 3 things. So consider that a teaser from earlier. Unleash Jalen Noe. Want to see what that looks like. Also want to see Brevin Jordan.
Ooh, all right.
Brevin Jordan is a training camp uh is a training camp
Crush,
player to watch for me because
Camp
look,
Crush.
I'm not. Yeah, call him a camp crush. I'll take that. Call him a camp crush because I'm not similar to Tank. I'm not putting too much into that because they've both had these back-to-back years where things ended in horrible fashion when it comes to injury. But could that be a playmaker? We talk about explosive plays, and the tight end position was a big talking point during OTAs and minicamp. Might they have a guy, and it's going to be real curious to see what the numbers game is at tight end anyway, because they drafted one. Obviously, we know Dalton Schultz is going to be there. They brought in Foster Moreau, and Brevin Jordan is really okay. Stover is still there.
Cade lost weight. He looks
Cade
good.
and Cade looks good. Looks good. Is moving a lot better. And of course, Brevin Jordan, we know, is different from really anybody else in the position room. And we'll see what
double tights. They gonna go double tights.
Hey, we're not supposed to say too much of what we've seen in practice, but let me just say this.
No more Blake Fisher has checked in. Number 57 is eligible.
I feel good about them being able to go out there in normal 21 personnel or normal in normal personnel and do not have to over rely on that sixth offensive lineman. Which was, I say this every time we bring it up, so I gotta say it here, Sarge. It was such a shame, bro, that they was doing that for survival. Normally, Sarge, you know this, when you bring in a sixth offensive lineman, it's because you really finna kick somebody's ass. It's because you really finna bring the pain. And them boys was doing that just to survive. So
Wait.
Brevin Jordan.
Wait, hold on. Before you do, just real quick, I gotta take up some more of your time. So which one was worse in your mind? Number 57 has reported as eligible or Driscoll Cat? Ain't that what it was?
Driscoll Cat is worse because number 57 reporting as eligible was at least justified as something to do to survive. Again, it was a survival tactic, just like I say, man, I don't respect nobody that kick another man in the gonads unless he's doing it to save unless you're doing it to save your life. You should not do that. This was basically them kicking somebody in the nuts every week because they got to go down kicking and screaming. That's what it was like. Driscoll Cat. You tell me, Sarge, what y'all in the chat. Y'all tell me what the justification was for that. Y'all tell me. I know Driscoll was a little bit more athletic than your average quarterback, but did that justify Driscoll Cat?
They ran Driscoll Cat. They ran Driscoll Cat, and Davis Mills was healthy.
Hey, one of the assistant coaches said that he was like Lamar Jackson.
Wait, hey, look, hold on.
One of them said, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I don't think he here no more.
Oh, that was
one of the coaches said he was like
Jackson,
Lamar G. He was Lamar
Jackson with 2 C's and not a K. Jackson with an X.
Nah, he was Jamar Laxon. He was Jamar Laxon out there.
Oh, just okay. So you got
the hell was they on, man?
You got Brevin Jordan.
So I got Brevin. I say unleash Jalen Noel, Brevin Jordan, and of course I buried the lead again, but CJ Stroud. I want to see him like how they talked about at minicamp, how he commanded the offense, how he's confident. Like I'm ready for the CJ Stroud. Call it whatever you don't call it a comeback. Call it a comeback. I don't give a damn. Call it a redemption tour, whatever it is. And CJ get to decide what he motivated by and what he not. I don't care. I want to see what it looked like once he get out there, man. Year 2 in this offense. Unleash Jalen Noel. Let's see what Brevin Jordan and his tight end group at large look like. And CJ Stroud commanding the offense. I gave you earlier about the Keelan Rutledge thing. We talked way too long about the offensive line and centers. I feel like that part kind of go without saying. We know the offensive line is big. But CJ Stroud, the quarterback, the future, and I do believe the future $60 million man, whether they do it in the offseason, whether they do it like this offseason, next offseason, whenever they do it, CJ Stroud going to get paid. I do believe that. But this year is going to be the year for him not only to quiet the doubters, but to also just level up the Texans in a way that they have just not been before. And I think they got the chance, Sarge. I believe it.
B, got you. Unleash Jalen Noel, Brevin Jordan, CJ Stroud.
Yep.
Here's my thing. Tank Dell. Got a chance to see him in minicamp. Got a chance to see him run some routes. Got a chance to see him with his helmet on. So I want to see how he's going to take that next step heading into training camp, especially after they put the pads on, and how much are they allowing him to actually play? Is he going to be 100%? They're going to give him 100% approval to do all things, to be able to practice full practice, or are they going to limit him? So that's what I'm looking forward to. And within those same parameters, where does he fit? Because like I said, I'm a big proponent of you don't lose your starting job due to injury. And I'm not saying this is a different set of circumstances, especially with the horrific injury that he sustained. So it's coming back. I'm not saying he should be starting, but I don't think that he should be, wide receiver 4 just yet. So I mean, and that's nothing. Like you said, you want to see them unleash Noel. I want to see them unleash Jalen Noel too. Now, if they can be 3A and 3B, I got that. But if you're going to, I feel like that he needs to have the opportunity to, if you're not going to put him on the outside because you have Higgins. Wait, B, you got something you want to say?
Now, go ahead. I'm gonna let you finish because I do have something to add before you go into your next one. But I'm gonna let you finish first.
No, go ahead.
Well, so a couple of things, because I'm glad you mentioned Tank. I didn't want to mention Tank, but since you did, I'm gonna go ahead and tease a video that I'm doing on the B block. The title that I'm going with so far, all right, the B block with B Scott on YouTube is, and it's a little bit long-winded, but stay with me here. Tank Dell is at least running around, but when will he be ready for violence? That's the question. When can Tank Dell take a hit and us all not grab each other by the arm, invade each other's space, like, oh, wait a minute, kind of like with a nervousness, kind of like
I like how you tease that
visceral reaction. When can he encounter violence? I don't know the answer, but that is part of it. And because you did go to wide receiver 3 and 4, you did that. I got to get messy now, man. And especially since we got to the end of this, we finna wrap up. But you talking about wide receiver 3, Jalen Noel. I want to see them unleash Jalen Noel. But a question I got is, Xavier Hutchinson not wide receiver 3? If Nico Collins and Jaden Higgins, we assume, are 1 and 2, I don't know. I don't know yet.
It just depends on how much. So with that being said, because Noel is a slot, you're not gonna put him on the outside. You already got your 2 outside wide receivers. Unless you think, are you saying that you think Hutch gonna beat out Higgins?
I think it could go either way. I think he could beat out Higgins. I think that between the 3 of them, they would be interchangeable enough to where those could be just their 3 guys, and they just do different things formationally, where sometimes you'll see one of those bigger guys on the inside. Maybe you'll see Hutch on the outside. I think they got a combination going. I want to see him unleash Jalen Noel, and everybody rooting for Tank.
All right, B.
But also in the chat, as you know, also in the chat is Xavier Hutchinson in the mix. I'm just saying. I ain't mean to derail you. I'm just saying that's out there.
All right, B. I wasn't gonna do this, but I'm gonna do it because, first of all, Hutch is my guy. Hutch is
great guy too, by the way. Great guy.
Because you look, Henry Toto is my guy, Hutch is my guy, and Jake Hansen is my guy. That I look when I come over there, I'll be like, hey, bro, hey, who y'all had over here on the block, man? They just bust out laughing. But Hutch is my guy. So one of the reasons why I kept saying Higgins is because I believe that just because of where they drafted him, they're going to automatically insert him into that position. Now, can Hutch outplay him? So this is the thing that gets lost, right? And this is why I said I wasn't gonna say nothing. I was just gonna go on about my business and wait till training camp started and be like, okay, so I'm looking at Xavier Hutchinson. Looking at Xavier Hutchinson. Because here's the thing, B. All the accolades that Jaden Higgins has coming out of college, Xavier Hutchinson had him too. Xavier
Speak
Hutchinson
on
was
it.
All-American too.
Preach. Speak on
it. he broke records at Iowa State too. The only thing was he just wasn't drafted high. You see,
Yeah,
where was
and
Jay Cook?
he was a late bloomer too. Come out of the
Yes.
went to blend that 1 year or at least 1 year.
Yeah, he's he's he going into his 4th year. That's right. He was in that draft class with Will now. And so, with that being said, B, I only put Higgins in there, and I kept saying Higgins because I just feel like they're going to put him in there because of where he was drafted. Now, you know me, I've said this till I was blue in the face. I'm a firm believer in Xavier Hutchinson, man. I am like he got one. He got the support from me just because I'm watching him, and I was like, yo, this guy once he gets up to speed, and then of course he was also one that came out of the now coming from Bobby. Okay, B. God, I didn't mean to hold you long, but I'm gonna say this. Side note
No,
again.
we good. I'm the one that brought it up. We good.
Hey, look, we should be monetizing this on Kick or Twitch or something. We should be streaming this.
Somewhere.
But B, we should think about a stream here soon. But B, with that being said, what a lot of people don't realize, and this is where Hutch lost out at his first 2 years in the league. Bobby Slowick's route concepts in his offense was horrible. They were terrible. And he kept saying about the explosive. Maybe it's just the first year play caller because Nick Caley, his wasn't always the best either. But with that being said, I still just look at Hutch and I see that he has the raw ability to do what he, he has the raw ability to be a really good wide receiver. He just needs the opportunity and the chance. And you can't keep saying, well, we'll keep him as a backup. And then if he, and play him on special teams, if you're going to use him, use him. Let him be used. So I agree with you, B. I agree that Xavier Hutchinson is in the mix as well. I was going to try to save that and, save that. But since you brought it up here, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it. Just talk about it right now. Yes. I do believe because I was going to use on my show later on this week. There's one surprise wide receiver that nobody's talking about that they should be talking about. But I don't mind talking.
Hey, make that a tease. Hey, consider that a tease. But
we already talked about it. Ain't no teasing no more.
hey, look, you'll dive deeper into it. But I couldn't help but bring it up because I feel like it was you that I was talking to at one of the practices about, and I don't even know what made me say this, but I was like, it occurred to me that I felt like Xavier Hutchinson was the most improved player within the time, like of the D'Amico Ryans era, from the time he got here to the time now. And I want to say that you, and if it wasn't you, it was whoever else I was talking to, I feel like it was you, said Henry Tortora. And I was like, you know what? I'll take that. Especially since, as you know, just as well, actually better than I do, you see one of them guys, you see the other. Yep. It will make sense that either one or two or both of those guys would be the most improved players, and I think he deserves a little bit of
that was on your show
acknowledgement
last
for
week.
that.
We talked about that.
Yeah, that might have been it. But yeah, man, it just the improvement. I think that he is so much more reliable today than he was when he got here. I'm not trying to oversell. I'll let you do that whenever you talk about Xavier Hutchinson on your video. But that is like in the midst of the Jalen Noel hysteria and the Tank Dell curiosity.
Uh-oh, B, you froze up. B. Oh, yeah, you froze up, B. There you go. Say it again. Yeah.
I said, within the Jalen Noel hysteria and the Tank Dell curiosity, there is Xavier Hutchinson sitting right there as a reliable option.
I like that, B. So, Tank Dell, what I'm looking for at training camp, because I feel like you and I maybe look since we're alternating, maybe next week on your show after you do that, we can get back to that.
Yes.
All right, so we'll save Xavier Hutchinson for that. But I will say this, B, the three things. One is Tank Dell. I want to see, and hey, tell him what you're gonna have on the B Block podcast again coming up this week.
Tank Dell is at least running around, but when will he be ready for violence?
I like that, B. I'm about to clip that.
When will he be ready for violence?
So
that's the question.
That's what I'm looking for in training camp is Tank Dell. The second thing I'm looking for is, now listen, when I say this, I know you're gonna be like, which one? Because there's so many of them, right? I'm looking at the Jalen's, right?
It's
Looking
50
at the
11 of
Jalen's.
them. It's 50
Right.
11, Sarge. You're gonna have to be specific.
Not talking about I'm not talking about Jalen Noel. I'm not talking about Jalen Petrie.
Okay.
I'm talking about cornerback Jalen Smith and safety Jalen Reed.
All right.
Those are the two Jalen's that I'm looking at because they are learning from some of the best in the game as far as their coaches are concerned, but they're also learning from they're getting that hands-on experience by being in practice and watching Kamari Lassiter and watching Kalen Bullock and watching Derek Stingley and watching Reed Blankenship. And so I'm interested to see year 2, especially with Jalen Smith going down and missing a lot of the majority of the season due to injury, and with Jalen Reed starting the year on injuries or coming back, getting injured again, then coming back and helping out, playing the playoffs. I'm just looking to see what year 2 is going to be like for the Jalen. So you got Tank Dell, the Jalen's, Smith and Reed, and the last one is Ariante Ursery.
Okay.
And the reason why I say Ariante is because last year he was baptized by fire as a rookie, going up against Will and Daniil every day. He's a rookie being baptized by fire, and they didn't take it easy on him either. But what Will did do was Will did take him after mostly every practice in training camp. Will put him to the side, tell him, hey, this is what I did to beat you. This is what you got to get strong on. This is what you got to do. It. Ariante has come back, and he's in very good shape. And he already has the mindset of wanting to be the best left tackle in the game. Now he just needs to put the mindset, the skill, and the body size all together. And so now I'm looking because, we talked about Nick Caley earlier in that offense, and we talked about CJ Stroud. Like the biggest, the one thing that's going to make that offense go is how well can Ariante protect CJ's blind side, because that's one of the things that no matter what, I don't care how you felt about the penalties. I don't care how you felt about the run blocking. Laramie Tunsil did not let CJ Stroud get touched, not from the blind side. He not giving up no sacks from the blind side. And so a second year under Cole Popovich, now going up against the best defensive ends in practice, another year under his belt, him being able to study, him being able to actually get his body together, his NFL body, not just that college body still. I just believe that Ariante Ursery is somebody that I believe that he's gonna get better. Of course, this year 2, you can't really talk about his rookie year, but he's one of the people that I'm looking forward to looking at in training camp to see what's the next step he takes.
I think that it's a credit to, it is both at the same time a credit to Ariante Ursery, but also an indictment on what the offensive line has been over the years, that we're not giving more attention to Ariante Ursery going into year 2.
Yep.
Because he is only one of 2 for sure starting offensive linemen coming back. Jake Andrews might start. We think that Braden Smith is going to be the right tackle. If Trent Brown were to for some reason be that, then that would be more. But
because I'm not starting Trent Brown for the season.
I'm not. I just said this on the radio. I don't think Trent Brown got a full season in him. That's a break.
Yeah.
And it's no disrespect. It's just the real of it. You look at him kind of move around. It's look, he is a break glass in case of emergency type of situation, and I think it should stay that way. But I'm with you on all of that. The Ariante Ursery point for sure. I would
This is
reiterate
12
everything
years.
you said.
God dang, I ain't know he been in the league 12 years.
Been in the league a minute, man, a long
He
time.
walk
And,
like it, too.
and he is massive, man, massive dude. And then
Hey,
I do
B.
want, I do want to say real quick on the Jalen, since you mentioned it. Have you ever seen? Because I be in the locker room, you be in there even more than I do. So we both been around Derek Stingley quite a bit since he been in Houston Texans. I can't remember too many times I seen him that giddy. There was one time the Texans did one of those preseason get-togethers, like the not Taste of the Texans, but one of them type of things that they do early in the year. Where I did see Derek Stingley. He had his lady with him before they had their baby. This was a couple years back, and I saw him chatting up the table. And I was like, man, I ain't never seen Derek Stingley talk this much. But this was kind of in private. This wasn't with the microphones and the cameras in his face. But with the microphones and cameras in his face, when he talked about J-Rock, this is Jalen Smith.
And I'm the one I asked him about that because I knew he wanted to talk about J-Rock.
Have you ever seen him that giddy to answer a question? That was his answer to you was something like 22 seconds. We don't normally, we played it on the radio. That's why I know that.
Yeah.
We don't normally get that. So I'm right there with you on that. Just like I don't know what the pathway is for him playing outside of either injury or if they want to do some type of like quarter score, like a dime package where they put extra defensive backs on the field or something like that. I don't know. But hearing Derek Stingley, who I think we can agree knows ball, talk about J-Rock in the way that he did, make me right there with you in agreement on things to watch.
Wait till you hear Kamari and Kalen Bullock talk about him.
Okay.
Because I think him and Kalen played together at USC.
That's right, USC. That's right.
And you know he used to date a Olympic gymnast.
I did know that.
Oh, I asked him. Look, off the record, he was talking about that, and I was like, "What was it like?" He was like, "It was just different." And it's like, "What you mean, just different?" He's like, "Cause everybody wants to talk to her. She's so famous. Everybody just want to talk to her all the time." He's like, "It's just hard sometimes because everybody wants to talk to her." Then we got to talking about playing at USC. He's like, anyway, that's another story for another time. But this
can I just say on that? For that alone, he is a winner in my book. Facts. He is a winner. That guy. I know. Look, I know a winner when I see one. That's a winner.
B, one more thing before we go. Look, I always feel like Trent Brown after a play gonna get up and be like, shit, leave me. He look, because Benson the Hedges, of course. Like, I need me. They like, hey Trent, you know we still in the game. We like, I know. Hey man, I need this if you want me to do the next play. All right. Trent, you listen to the play. Is it run or pass? That's all I need to know. Is it run or pass? Just tell me that. Matter of fact, hey Ed, when we get to the line, look, tell me what we do. That like, hey, he like one of them old school and keep their cigarettes.
Hey, he definitely looked like he could still play with it if you shot him down and he's smoking a short or a Black and Mild, a stogie, or like he could down a beer right before he go out there for a play. Like, but you don't want him out there too long though. Not too long, but just long enough. Not here for a good time, not a long time type of situation when you get that age.
He come over there with that. His oxygen mask is actually a vape.
Gotta be.
Tell the people where they can find you, man.
It's the B Block with B Scott on YouTube. You can also find the B Block podcast anywhere you get your podcast, and Sports Radio 610 twice a week. I'm on Wednesdays and Fridays. But as I mentioned earlier, next week, all week, Monday through Friday, 2 to 6 on the Drive. So y'all check me out.
Who you on with again?
I'm be on with Ron. I'm in Fort Clint with Ron. So They let me know when to show up, and I show up. But we usually kind of loosen up a little bit. So we'll see what that's gonna look like, especially on a week where it ain't a lot going on. We'll see what kind of shenanigans we're gonna get into, man. It should be an entertaining week.
Well, they need some type of positivity over there. No, you know what, Sarge? Do not do that. Do not do that.
You know I'm gonna bring the right. You already know I'm gonna bring the right energy. You already know.
It's that man whole government job. Don't say that, Sarge. Do not. And you can follow me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Big Sarge Sports to see at the end. Follow me on the Tick and the Talk at Big Sarge Media. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Big Sarge Sports with the Z at the end. Because you know we do everything for the gram. And make sure you're subscribed to the Texas Tailgate Talk page on YouTube and the Big Sarge Media page on YouTube. The B Scott, Big Sarge. You know how this works, right?
I'm out.
Hard work.